when I'm hosting.
Mm.
That is correct.
Facts. Mhm. Mhm. Mm. Uh, no sound for Forte. No sound for Forte.
No sound for Forte. No sound for Forte.
Slow-mo predicted it.
Oh my god! So they can hear you
Oh,
guys.
they hear the ad
so
libs. Yeah, they hear
so
all that.
so because since Forte did a Forte thing once again, like clockwork.
Bruh.
Welcome to DPS Podcast, episode 147. Since you guys could only hear me, and it's just
Sir.
been silence for here's more work, editing work I have to do post.
No, you don't, because guess what? No, you know why? Because I am hitting the record button right now. And welcome to another episode of Damage Protected Podcast, episode 147. Shout out to everybody that came to the show. Really appreciate it. You got 17 people here right now. We got a full panel. Never seen this many people on this panel before. We're going to be talking about Cyberpunk and all the new weapons that's coming to that game. Everybody on this panel, I think, played the original game, so we're going to get a little bit of a post on how excited people are for the game to be coming out in a couple of weeks when it comes to the DLC. We got Forza. Information finally starting to come out about this game. People are going to get their hands on the 11th, and we're going to get a Forza monthly. Bethesda said they're giving up. They're not giving up on Redfall, even though they probably should. I don't know what's going on there, but we're going to talk about that. Starfield's full release. Everybody that decided to get the game a week early, shout out to you. You are the real MVP. But the people with Game Pass got next. So we about to talk about all the people and their experiences of playing the game. And we got a person that reviewed the game on the panel with a really good review, and definitely want to pick his brains on how he felt about the game and all the stuff that he was afraid to put in his Bethesda review. So we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk about that. Todd Howard came out, was talking crap about you might need to buy a new PC. Remnants of PlayStation telling people to get a second job. It's kind of cool. And the Nintendo Switch. I know one person on this panel can't stand the Switch. Another person thinks the Switch is an overrated piece of plastic. But the fact that the Switch might be as powerful as a PS5 at some point, and it's playing games at a resolution and frame rate that we never thought would happen. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff. But first, I do want to, welcome my amazing co-host, the man, the myth, the legend, the man of many slaps, the man that actually did make a video in the last 2 weeks, but he didn't make one last week. Slow-mo backslap. What's up with you, bro?
I'm good. You pretty good recovery there. Like you kind of did pretty good on the introduction there and overview of the topics and whatnot. But no, I'm good, man. I've been playing a lot of games as usual. But a lot of games, a lot of new games that we're definitely going to be talking about tonight. But I want to introduce our esteemed guests, man. We don't have guests that are so highly recommended, as often as this many all at once. Usually it's like one guest or two guests. We got 3 guests tonight, and I want to introduce this first guy, Kofi, Creative Kofi. I think one of the I would say the most well-versed gamers in this community when it comes to Japanese RPGs, or just RPGs in general. Kofi, how you doing, sir?
I am fantastic. It has been a wonderful year. I think Well, actually, I was on the cast sometime earlier this year, so it's nice to get a twofer, adding a pattern to it that I could really enjoy. Yeah, gaming has been awesome. I'll say really quickly, last year I missed a lot of gaming time, so I call this year the 2023 Revenge Rampage. I'm trying to finish 16 JRPGs within one calendar year,
Mm,
and it's going well. In addition to other games I'm
nice.
playing, so lots to talk about. A lot of it, well, I'd say half the games I'm playing will be out in the US in the next 6 months. So I'm hoping to share some
Nice.
knowledge on games that aren't released yet. I finished one that comes out in October in the US called Cry Machina, was the most recent. Very, very unique action RPG inspired by Nier. So it was a
Mm,
good run.
Nice.
definitely looking out for that one. Nice.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we are definitely looking forward to it. And
Lovely.
that voice you just heard, that is Mr. Steel Rain,
Yes,
co-host
sir.
of Living Split Screen. What's up, Steel? How's it going, man?
Well, it is I am him, the one and only Steel Rain, and to be on this illustrious podcast here with some of the, I think that some of the, no, I'm not going to say founders, but definitely pillars in the community, especially from a brother standpoint. Shout out to Forte and Slow Mo. Y'all's banter back and forth, y'all's energy has always been something that I personally believe is powerful in the community, because a lot of people get caught up trying not to be themselves, and I find y'all consistently just being who you are, being steady on your opinions, and y'all argue like brothers, and it reminds me of home so much. It's perfect. But yes, I'm one of the hosts of Live a Split Screen, a non-console centric platform that covers everything going on with the gaming industry. Take that RTS approach, pulling ourselves out of the world, look at the darker crevices of the map, and pulling those resources together so we can build up that foundation to reach those 3 billion gamers that Phil Spencer always talks about. But appreciate the invite. Glad to be here, and I can't wait to get into these topics tonight, man.
Absolutely. Once again, congrats on you guys hitting 1K subscribers on YouTube on the channel. That's amazing.
Nice.
And that first 1K is always the hardest. The road is not easy, after that, but it gets easier, and you really get to kind of spread your creative wings a little bit more now that you kind of got that little the little small like roadblock out the way. So it's good to see. I'm glad. I love to see good people and good like quality entertainment podcasts actually succeed and grow. It's amazing.
Aww.
Definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. And this other guy here, I don't think anyone knows this guy. I mean, he's just some random guy.
Up and comer,
Up and comer.
Yeah.
Mr. the man with a million, Randolph Thor is here. What's up, Rand?
What's up, my Bridge 4 brother? How you doing?
God. Don't start this with him.
No, we.
You're just
Bridge 4, man.
you're just jealous that me and Slow Mo got something that me and you never will have, Forte.
Wait.
Read books, Forte.
Wait.
You can read books that are 1,000 pages to understand this.
Slow-mo,
okay.
Your Bridge for a brother. Do you talk to Slow Mo on the cell phone?
Is it the competition now?
Do you talk to him on the
yeah.
cell phone?
Now it's the kind of time.
I mean, what kind of trust do you have for a Bridge for a brother if you ain't?
I mean,
on
all
the
I
phone?
said was that me and Slow Mo got something that me and you never will have. That's fine. Not a competition.
Really salty.
What reading it?
We got the Cosmere. We got Brando Sando.
It's not my fault. Y'all like reading weird books.
Okay. Wow. Millions of people have read those books. Are they all weird
books? Huh?
I'm just messing with you.
You are salty Forte today. That's who you are today.
I'm just messing with you. Calm down.
That's funny.
But Rand, how's it going, man?
Stand on with that one.
It's going, man. It's going good. Speaking of, Bridge 4, did you check out any of the new Cosmore books that he's put out this year?
I have not yet.
You have not read Trust in the Emerald Sea or Yumi and the Nightmare Painter? Come on, Slow Mo. What we doing?
I've read
reading a long time
one.
ago.
You stop it. I read one.
Reading.
I read 1.5 books this year.
What'd you end up?
Exactly.
I know you finished with Rhythm of War. What you read?
Rhythm of War. I am in the process of reading our good friend Ramon Terrell's book.
Okay.
It is a good book. It's just I go through these like ebb and flows where I do a lot of reading, but not a ton of gaming, and then vice versa, and then it's just like I have to figure out a way where I can balance gaming and reading at the same time, but I just still haven't figured it out yet.
I've run into that problem too, and here's what I've been doing, because I read a ton of books. I think I've completed as many games this year as books I've read. So I'm at like 35 games complete this year, and I think I've finished 35 books. Right?
Wow. Yeah.
So
wow. How are you doing that?
What I normally do is it's not like forced, like I gotta feel it, like I want to read, and I will, like, before I game, I usually game late at night. I usually start gaming maybe at but I am a night owl, as Forte would say. I'm usually start gaming maybe 8-9 p.m. and I'll game till I don't know, 2 or 3 a.m. depending on it. I'll always, if I'm feeling it, like I started a new book yesterday called Boys in the Valley, which is a horror book, set in the 1900s at a boys' orphanage, and it's kind of getting nuts. I usually will, at least before I start gaming, I will like put anywhere between 100 to 200 pages read before I start gaming, and then when I'm done, when I'm done, say I'm done at 3 a.m., I'll read like another 100 pages.
After, like, between 3 and maybe 5 a.m.
What?
Yeah, because Forte knows I don't go to bed till like 6 a.m.
This man has got insomnia. He literally doesn't sleep.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, yeah. So I always tried like reading before I game and then reading afterwards. As long as I'm still feeling it. Sometimes you get in those ruts where you don't really want to read, or like recently when Starfield came out and I put in 70 plus hours for review, I didn't read a goddamn thing. those 2 weeks, because it was just like, all right, it's time to game, no reading until Starfield's finished, you know.
I literally talked to him the day that his review came out. I watched it, called him, talked to him for like a half an hour. I said, "What you about to do?" "About to go to sleep." I said, "What?" I said, "It's 1:30 in the afternoon." He said, "Bro, I've been up all night." I'm like, "What? Go to sleep."
Well, that was a different thing. Like it was like 5 a.m. and I was like, well, this review's got to be out at 11. So I was like, I'll just stay up till
There's
11.
a big difference between 5 a.m. and 11 o'clock,
well, true,
bro.
but at this point it was like, 6 hours. Let me read some.
Like 6 hours.
Let me make sure, because I was like, oh, what happens? Because I remember when I fell asleep and I slept through Xbox 2. So I didn't wake up.
I do remember that. What's the name was literally on Twitter. It's like, I don't know what happened to Red.
So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stay up for these 6 hours.
Like,
Yeah, Jess was like, I don't know what happened to Red, guys.
What's his name? I mean, good grief.
Shout out to what's his name? Yeah.
No, so Rant, I don't think I can do that. I just like I would end up like falling asleep behind the wheel or something like that if I tried to do those out. I could potentially try, because I do game around like the same periods of time that you game. So maybe I could, before I game, put in like at least 50 pages or something like that, and then do some gaming. The kind of because even this, like, sometimes when I'll bring up the last book I read, the last Sanderson book. Once I really start to like really feel what's going on, like I just keep going and going and going. Next thing I know, I've read like 300-400 pages, and I didn't even intend on reading that much. So it's like I can see myself really getting into it as long as I just get started. Because it's, for me, for the most part, when I decide to read something, it's because I am finished gaming, I then crawled into bed. I'm trying not to disturb the wife, and I'll pull out like my phone and dim it, and then start read like a couple of pages, and then next thing you know, I'm out, I'm asleep, I'm too tired at that point. So I definitely need to read before I start getting tired.
So now I really know why Slow-Mo got rid of his Steam Deck, because he probably was like snuggled up with it while he was in the bed with his wife, and his wife was like, "You is not about to have that LCD screen on in the middle of the bed while I'm trying to go to sleep." That's why you got rid of it, for real, ain't it?
No, I really just wasn't using it, and now it's funny because I got rid of it. I can see myself using it now because I've been playing a lot of like RPGs. In between, been playing Sea of Stars, Chained Echoes. I already beat Persona 5 before, but not Royal. But I'm like halfway through Royal on Xbox and Game Pass. I've been playing ever since I got GeForce Now. Now it's like
Mhm.
I'm like testing out different ways of like getting actual quality gaming in. And now with xCloud, I can't really do shooters or anything that's competitive because the latency isn't quite where I would like it to be.
Mm.
But on GeForce Now, it's almost you would almost forget that you're not playing a game that's locally installed on a device that you're playing on. So it's like
Right.
I switch back and forth with them, and then now like the Steam Deck would have been perfect for that. But you know it wasn't what I was doing back when I decided to sell it, and I took the money from that to get my CPU? Yeah, my CPU. So I don't regret that at all. So it is what it is. But it's I'm good with it. I'm good with that decision. It doesn't matter to me. We do have some house cleaning that we
Oh,
gotta
yeah.
do
Oh,
before we
okay.
get
Yeah.
into
Yeah, I was
the
gonna say go.
topics.
I was gonna say go ahead and do the house clean because he did show up. We can talk about it real quick.
Because I was so looking forward to this episode because I was 1000% certain Forte was going to forget. But he barely at the last moment got it done. So last week, y'all,
Mm.
so to give full context, our homie Agent Deli died. Former Ubisoft developer,
Red Deli.
great guy, has been on the podcast multiple times. Died. Asked Forte to get him back when the game was still alive. Babylon's Fall.
Oh.
Forte said, I got you. And then proceeded to not send it to, even though he got the game for him, did not send it to for like a year. Now the servers have been turned off. I don't even know if you can play Babylon's Fall no
I
more.
don't think so.
I feel like
And
they were
he
giving away
still-
pieces of it or something like.
right. And he still didn't send it. So last week, in order to motivate Forte to do what he said he was going to do, and even he admitted himself he was being way too lazy. If he didn't send Deli Babylon's Fall by this podcast this week, right now, he was
Mhm.
going to owe Deli an Xbox Series S.
Whoa.
That's fair. I mean,
Very fair.
that's elite, but
And so
yeah.
now what Forte doesn't know is that I talked to Deli like a day after that, and we were dying because we were just like, if Forte doesn't send it today, he's gonna forget. Don't say anything. So we were just like, we're not gonna say nothing to him. So that he's gonna forget, and then we're gonna just surprise him on Thursday, and he's gonna owe you a Series S. It's gonna be the funniest thing in the world. And I've been playing I've been playing Battlefield with Forte. I've been talking to Forte on the phone, and it's been killing me to just find out did he send it or not. And I kind of felt like he didn't send it, because if he would have sent it, he would have been bragging about how he actually did what he said he was going to do. And then finally, like all day today, I just been so giddy. I just been like, he ain't said nothing. I can't wait to remind him and hear the silence when he realizes he owes a Series S. And then this man calls me at like, what was it, like 6 o'clock?
The UPS closed at 7, so it was like 6:50. I was literally just leaving UPS.
And as soon as he called me, I was like, man, I knew that he did it. And I was just like, but then he's all like, hey, guess what I did? And I'm just like, I'm not trying to say anything. So I'm just like, I don't know. What did you do? And he's just like, just guess. I'm like, dude, just say it. Just say it. I know what you did, damn it. So he sent it off finally. He doesn't owe Deli a Series S, unfortunately. But guys, we'll get him next time. We'll get him next time.
Oh man, no. Let me tell you. And he asked me like, "Who told you? Someone told you that you owed him a Series S if you ain't shipped it." I was like, "No," and I couldn't remember like what made me think about it while I was at work today. And then I thought about it like while I was driving home. Somebody came into the store today to buy a used Series S to play Starfield, and I was like, I said, oh, and then when he said it, it just clicked in my head. I was like, I'm supposed to be. It's something about a serious answer I'm supposed to be doing, and then it kind of hit me, and I was like, oh no. So I literally had to get off work early because I was supposed to work till and this is the thing. This is why Slomo thought I was dead in the water. Because normally I work till 7 o'clock on the day of DPS. That's why I was able. That's why I got the show stuff up early because I took my laptop to work with me, and I was like, okay, I need to go home early. And I got to go home and get these games, and I need to make my way to UPS before they close at 7 o'clock. So yeah, that's the story. I'm happy that I got it done though, and I'm happy that Deli finally is going to get his games. I told him I was sorry though. I was truly being super lazy. Like it was like one of those things, and he's like, "Well, you supposed to." I said, "Well," he said, "What are you supposed to pay you for it?" I said, "No, not till I sent it." But yeah, I was being lazy at all. I was wrong. I'm sorry, Deli, once again.
We'll get him next time.
At least fair. At least he's
We'll get you. And one other thing. So still before the show, pre-pod, Forte was trying to, coerce you into playing Battlefield with him. Let me explain to you what we're playing Battlefield with Forte's like. Now, Forte typically, right, we'll play Halo Infinite, we'll play Call of Duty, we'll play
Battlefield pretty serious
we'll
though,
play
bro.
Fortnite, we'll play. We get into Forte is typically pretty quiet. He'll do his thing. He's doing good. He's not like we're not having to carry him or anything. He does good. Get in the Battlefield and he's all like, yeah, where you at, Slow-Mo? I'm like, what he's talking about? I'm over here on the other side of the map. What you mean? No, where you at on the scoreboard? I'm like, what?
Oh,
I'm like, excuse me? Like I'm on the scoreboard with more kills than you. What are you talking about? No. I'm higher than you because I play Battlefield like that. I'm like, okay. So I'm just warning you.
Battlefield like that.
I'm just warning you.
That's funny.
What was going to happen? He's going to be basically like, oh, but I got like 12 assists and I revived 20 people and I threw out ammo boxes
and I still got he might have 3 kills more than me, but
no, significantly more kills.
No, he definitely don't have because Slow-Mo's a selfish gamer when it comes to like just running. First of all, the man don't want to play Conquest. This man wants to play nothing but TDM.
That's team.
You ain't even gonna play Rush,
right? He don't want to do nothing but TDM.
The word team is in the mode.
I get it though. Team D could be some fun.
But that's all he plays. That's all he plays though.
That's funny.
He don't.
I don't like Rush.
Slow-mo. I say
I don't
slow-mo.
like Conquest. Map is too big. It's too much going on. As soon as I respawn, I get smacked by like a Black Hawk.
It's real Game of Thrones. See, yep.
I don't like it. I don't. No, sir. I don't like it. I don't like it. I just look. Can we take that map? Take a third of that map.
Original battle royale.
Yes, arena. Let's go 6v6 and just go shoot each other in the face.
That's
no
fair.
Vehicles. No, like what in Forza knows. When I play Halo Infinite, I hate the maps where all the vehicles are there because like as soon as we start dominating, the other team just let me go jump in a ghost and start shooting and stuff. It's just like, oh, here we go. It's just
see these people getting wet. You see this the posting of that trigger, man. Oh my god, it's
why aren't you showing the gameplay that we had together when I was
he wasn't recording.
Wait, hold on. No. I have that gameplay, so I record all my Battlefield gameplay.
Oh, okay. He said all of it. Okay,
all of it.
You need to be Forte TV.
I'm literally looking at over 80 gigs of Battlefield gameplay here, sir.
And yeah, you never show any of it during the podcast. This is fun.
Well,
okay, all right.
Because we just started playing the game again.
We go look. I wanted to get the house clean out the way so we can just get it all out the way, and then we can get into the topic so that we can get in. So our Forte, are you ready to do this, man?
I'm ready, man. So let's.
Oh, by the way, I did. If you need Starfield gameplay,
I have. Sir, wait, hold on. Let's switch to the other view. You see that on the screen, sir? The other view, beautiful,
it's,
ain't it?
it's gonna need a
It's going.
moment for it to update. So I don't see nothing.
You
But
don't see. It's about to pop up.
Nah, I don't
Yeah,
see.
you see that. You see that beautiful ultra wide screen up there with that beautiful game called Starfield on it.
Yeah, well, if you need some more gameplay, because I'm pretty sure we got like 5 minutes.
No,
if you
no,
need
sir.
more gameplay, I got.
No, sir.
I just sent you a whole bunch
this
of
is all
gameplay.
8 hours of my gameplay in one night.
8 hours, dope.
All 8 hours in one night. That's what that is.
Cut that up.
I definitely need to cut it up, but
save some space.
I'm looking at the file
that
now.
File gotta be huge.
This file literally is 123 gigs. It's pretty big.
Oh
well, I hope in that 8 gigs it isn't like 4
it's
hours.
not that bad.
If you just standing still, because
I already ran it. I already ran it through Premiere and put it down to 1440p. So that what it would have been. But
did you hear me? I said I hope in that like there's no you just standing there doing nothing, because you often do that in your gameplay. Okay, everyone else heard me, so
okay, so let's move on. First of all, it's not a topic. I didn't put it on the list, but let's talk about Redfall, because nobody really wants to talk about this godforsaken game. We don't want to talk about this game. Is anybody okay? First of all, I think everybody on this panel said by the time they do anything with Redfall, nobody will be playing the game.
Right?
They said that they said they're not giving up on it. They're not giving up on the game. They said the slow start.
P. Hines who said this, right?
Yes, this is P. Hines that said this. He said, we're not giving up on the game. Even with the slow start of the game, we still are going to put development and we're still going to make it right. Does it even, I'm going to go, Rand ain't said nothing in a while because we bored him with all the Battlefield talk. That man don't play multiplayer games no more anyways. Rand, should they just...
Are we really starting the podcast with Redfall?
Yes, we are, because we want to get it out the way. We don't want this to linger past this point.
Is the question, should they even bother? Is that the question?
That is definitely the question.
I mean, they promised more content, and they literally sold $100 version of the game with 2 extra characters. So I don't know if they're contractually obligated to do so, but it's probably the right thing to do. It's probably the right thing to do for the fans of the game, even though we all make fun of the game and say it's not worth playing. I'm sure there's people enjoying the game. Probably the right thing to do by the developers who made the game. Want to fix it, right? They promised 60 frames. They promised more characters and more content. So it's probably like, they need to fix that, and they need to provide the content they said they would provide, instead of just being like, well, no, we're done and moving on to something else. I'm sure there are people at Arcane Austin who probably have moved on to something else, but they need to at least fix, or they need to at least live up to the promises of what they said they would deliver before they move on.
And that's what I've always said in regards to this. Back when they made the announcement that 60 FPS wouldn't be there at launch, I was definitely on the side of, this is a bad decision. They should just delay the game until it's there, because by the time it does come out, if the game does not hit, no one is going to be checking for the 60 FPS mode. And I remember in that conversation, Forza was like, well, what's the point of even doing the mode if no one's going to check for it? The point is that that's your integrity on the line, because this is what you said you were going to do. And as Rand has said, there are people who paid for that additional content, paid additional money, the bite back mode, the bite back edition, whatever it was called. If they paid additional money to get that, you have to fulfill those kind of obligations. And I think when you don't do that, you really lose the respect of not just the overall gaming community, but your own hardcore community that has supported you throughout everything. It reminds me of what EA forced BioWare to do with Mass Effect Andromeda, where Mass Effect Andromeda launched and it was a disaster of a launch, and sales were nowhere near what they expected from a Mass Effect game, and EA just canceled everything. They canceled the new expansion they were working on, and there were people who had paid for that already, but they got canceled. And it's just like, yo, you really will lose lifelong fans by promising something people paying for what you promised and then not delivering. You just can't do that. They have to, if they made the statement that we're going to have more characters, we're going to have 60 FPS, we're going to have more, more content coming. You got to do that.
Yeah. Nah, yeah. I mean, I agree. I agree with both sides. I agree with both of y'all on that. 100%. As I put my time in the Redfall. Unfortunately, I ended up putting it down after losing 90 minutes of game time. That's something that I don't play about. It's an immediate turnoff. And to be fair, the game wasn't what was quote unquote promised. Right now, again, I'm not the arcane player, whatever the case may be, and I did jump into a co-op with Pong, so that did enhance the experience. And I do think that there was something special there. I think what's unique to me about this situation is just them coming back to and just and withholding the promise, or not withholding it, but making sure that they stand on their promise, is that this situation is much different from what you were describing, Slow-Mo, with EA, where Xbox actually will support Arcane, and Arcane has also already stated that they're moving on. They're already working on their next game.
Right.
So putting a small team or whatever to fully flesh out Redfall and it just landing and being whatever it is. I see Capono in chat saying kind of fighting against that. I don't think Game Pass is the landfill that broken games just get released into. I think Redfall would have been broken regardless because of how it was created. It came from a broken ZeniMax trying to find their way in a live service world and not having any solid mythology about how to go about that process. Now you're under a publisher where you didn't need that anymore. And again, it's not okay either that Microsoft completely overlooked that when they were acquired. But nonetheless, if they saw it as something that was a fall off, hey, we're just gonna have to write that one off, release it as is, and y'all move on. We trust y'all. We know y'all do good work. This is just going to be the one that's maybe doesn't hold up to y'all previous titles as some say that they do, because I keep hearing that Arcane's a solid studio. Redfall's not a good example of that, but the only thing they can do is definitely hold the line and make sure that they stay true to their word.
So the only thing that I think about this mostly is due to the fact that you're right. A lot of Arcane has already moved on to another project. And I do think that they are going to honor anybody that bought that Bite Back edition and got those 2 extra operative and whatever extra DLC was coming with it. But I am still of the belief that 60 frames per second patch, and it ain't coming, bro. You ain't gonna see that. I don't think that's coming, man. I don't think it's coming.
I know people at Xbox that were literally playing it at 60 frames. Though.
Okay, well then it's coming. Then I ran out door.
This is before release. So I mean, like, there's a version of the game, at least in some form of internal testing, that is running the game at 60 frames. I think what ended up happening was we delayed the game once, right? Mm-hmm. They looked at it, and I think it's Bethesda's choice whether or not to delay it, right? It's their game, whatever. And it was like, okay, well, we could delay it again, but most likely it would be pushed from 2023 to 2024. And maybe they just felt we need to get the game out. We need to just put it out and just be done with it instead of delaying it again. Because what's there in Redfall isn't good. And even at 60 frames, and even with like 2 extra characters, you're still looking at a game that's at best mediocre. A 7.
So,
right?
Rand, do you think the challenge was a parity issue between the S and the X in terms of 60 frames?
No, I don't think so. I think the challenge was that the game just sucked.
I wish you would have got invited to this preview event.
I think it was like Arcane using Unreal Engine when they normally don't. I think they use some. Let's say they use the Void engine, which is like an variation.
It's a modified. Yeah, it's a modified id Tech.
So they're using, and it was weird because I think originally they were like, "Hey, we're using Unreal Engine 5." And if you can search for those articles that said Redfall was on Unreal Engine 5, and then suddenly it was like, "No, it's on Unreal Engine 4," and it's a live service game which Arcane's never made before. And judging from the Jason Schreier article about what went wrong with that game, it was kind of like leadership at Bethesda and at the studio wanted one thing, but it wasn't really coming out very well, and the employees were hoping that Microsoft would come in and just cancel the game essentially. But like they weren't going to do that because they don't really do that with any of their acquired studios, right? So there's like they're not going to come in and immediately be like, oh, by the way, that game right there canceled, right? So I don't know. I just think it's probably just the developers didn't care about that game. Their hearts weren't in it, which I think clearly shows.
Mm-hmm.
They were in over their head. They were trying to create a game. They were basically forced to make a live service game because that's what Bethesda was doing at the time. And I think it was just kind of like they ran out of time. It's like this game was supposed to be out, in 2022, and now we delayed it. Now it's 2023. We're not delaying it any further. Put it out, and you get Redfall. So I don't know. It's just not a good. It's not a good game. I get what Pete's saying. He's like, oh, well, the game's going to live in Game Pass, which means people might discover it down the road, and we want that game to be fixed for them. Which, if you look at like the roadmap that Xbox has about Starfield, and which we'll talk about, and 6 million players, and potentially owning Activision Blizzard and Call of Duty, and adding those games to Game Pass, and maybe driving a lot more people to Game Pass who might then check out the library of games there that are always there, Redfall being one of them. Maybe you get people down the road checking out the library of games and, okay, here's Redfall, let me check it out. And it's better. It's not great, but it's in a better shape that people might then be like, okay, let me check out some of their other games. Right. Let me check out their new game. Instead of, you release the game, it bombs, and then nobody ever talks about it again, right? Nobody ever plays it ever again because it's this game that came out that nobody bought because it reviewed horribly. Maybe that is kind of like, we want to fix it because we owe it to ourselves and we owe it to our fans to fix. And that, if Game Pass continues to grow down the line, other people may discover it, and we want them to have at least a good first impression of an Arcane game instead of, what Redfall ended up being. So I could see why they would be like, yeah, we're not moving on. We're gonna fix our problem, So
yeah, I got a question for you guys, and I wanted Kofi to answer it first. We've heard from some of the reporting that's out there that out of the Arcane Austin studio that was still there when they made Prey and all the other games at launch of Redfall, like 70% of that development staff had moved on. Do you guys wonder if, now that they don't have to make something that's not really a part of their identity, they don't have to make a live service game, they can make more immersive sim kind of games, but do they even still have that kind of personnel to still make that kind of content? And I want everyone to answer it, but I wanted Kofi to answer it first.
So I do remember, and this is slightly anecdotal, but I do remember seeing some posts on Twitter of prior employees or contractors with Arcane Austin mentioning that they had received a lot of negativity internally after that game had released. So I feel like the energy and the overall ambition of that game has pretty much dissipated. If there's going to be somebody maintaining this game, fulfilling some DLC content, it might be some new minds that could have a new vision. Because I just feel like everybody else was exhausted of their energy to see that through. I think I saw another rumor of like other developers kind of mocking, how this game even came to release. That I would take that personal. If I was on the staff somewhere, working my butt off. So yeah, I think new blood in, maybe something can happen with it, but I don't think it's going to be like a No Man's Sky situation where like, Sean and them, they stayed there and now, what's No Man's Sky? It's got VR, it's got like 9 DLCs and people generally remember it well. I don't think it's going to be that same staff somehow brought back or something,
Well,
anything like that.
this is also kind of where I'm kind of going with, because like if you're gonna make so there was talk, well, there was reports out that were saying that like they would hire people while they were trying to get staff in to make Redfall, and they would get people who are applying who want to work at Arcane Austin because of games like Prey, games like Dishonored. And that's what like the skill set they had, and that's kind of like the mindset they had of what they would be working on. But instead, they got like this live service first person shooter, definitely a different kind of game design and vibe altogether. And so if 70% of the people have gone on, and then if they replace those people with people who are more along the lines of trying to work on live service games, now that they're going back to immersive sim, do they need to now like retool with people who would do that, or do they still have the staff to kind of make the kind of level of quality that they used to make before? Is what I'm wondering.
I just feel like whatever, I think it's possible, but I would temper
Mhm.
my expectations on what the end result would be. Let's say 60 FPS is added, and then maybe they have one somewhat interesting DLC, but the content is the same, right? Images of scenes with kind of esoteric text explaining, the region, things that just felt incomplete in the first release. I think
Mhm.
we won't see a level up in whatever's next. And so we might go, at least they did the 60 FPS update. At least somebody could pick up the game and say, this is a decent, not broken game. But I don't think we're going to see something. I just never think we're going to reach the fact that we'll say, wow, look at what Redfall did. Look at the turnaround. I just don't see the level of effort sounds enormous based on the vision you just described, right? This is not their wheelhouse.
Mm.
And so
Yeah.
to get staff in to do that, it sounds like ugh. Get another studio to do it. I think if you really want to
Yeah,
like turn it around.
I agree with that. I will never I could never sit here and say that Redfall has true longevity. It doesn't. But you do still need to fully complete your game, because again, to your point earlier against Slow-Mo, it's just people have already paid for it, so it'd be only right to just fully to make the game complete. After that, it doesn't have to be some continued thing. You tried to make it one thing, it didn't hit with people, although you have plenty of people who go out here and will defend the game for whichever reason. That's to each their own, but at the end of the day, you have to have a finalized product at the end. So putting a team on anything Redfall related, you might as well just go ahead and create your next IP. If you want to go back to Dishonored, or you want to make that brand new game, people are going to be looking for that. Because I think the problem already with Arcane is that even for somebody like myself, and again, I'm in the top 10% of gamers, right? The ones that are having these conversations and being involved. And I wasn't even thinking about Arcane. So they do need to work on something else that's going to help either bolster the fans that they already have, or do something else that's going to help reach other fans, because Redfall obviously isn't that. But they're in a better environment to be able to do that. So that's the other thing.
Yeah. Rand, any thoughts on that?
I mean, I do think there's probably another studio. I wouldn't be surprised if another studio has taken over, like Roundhouse Games.
Mm.
I wouldn't be surprised if
weren't they a support studio on it?
they
In
were.
the
They
first
did
place?
they did some work on Redfall. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they maybe are doing the majority of the cleanup. Since Arcane Austin maybe has sort of moved on, or some of them have moved on. So I sort of feel like you fix the game, and then that's it. You move on. You make good with your promises. And it was just that's all you really can do. And as for your next game, because obviously all eyes are going to be on them for their next game, right?
Right.
The whole thing of Arcane never misses, which was true up until Redfall, right? When with Dishonored 1 and 2 and Prey and Deathloop, for me, Dishonored never missed. They're like the upper, like I remember being on the show with you guys, Forte and Slow-Mo, when you guys asked me, hey, what's your favorite studio out of the Bethesda purchase? And I didn't hesitate. I said Arcane, right? Because at the time, Arcane had dropped nothing but incredible games that I enjoyed, right? Greatly. So like, you watch the trailers for Redfall and you're like, okay, seems cool. I'm sure it'll be good because it's Arcane. It's Arcane, right? And then you play the game like, oh man, what went so wrong? And you hear behind the scenes stuff like Jason Schreier. So whatever they do next, I'm sure they'll be under the microscope. Not necessarily Arcane Leon, like whether they're doing a Deathloop 2 or whatever. I'm sure people will be like, okay, we're excited for that. Deathloop was a really good game that reviewed really well and was played by a lot of people. But man, I know like whenever they do announce their next project, whatever it is, the microscope's gonna like nobody's gonna believe that Arcane Austin can actually reverse course, can go from putting out a turd to putting out gold, right? People are just gonna be like, I don't know about this game. I don't know. They burned me with Redfall. I'm not gonna get excited. I'm more interested in seeing what their next game is and how the reception to seeing it the first time, how people are going to react to that, of being like, all right, well, am I going to get excited for this? Because I was excited before, fool me once, shame on me. Or no, I was saying, go fool me once, shame
Fool
on
me
you.
once, shame on you. Fool me twice,
shame on me. Right? So
yeah. But I feel like if it's more of what the reception of what they next show us will be dependent upon what it is. If it's something more along the lines of Prey and Dishonored, it's people are going to be right back on. I think people will be right back on that we down with Arcane bandwagon. But if it's more something like Redfall, they're not going to have too many people that are going to be actually giving them the benefit of the doubt. Now, I know I always use a lot of analogies with BioWare, but I think BioWare is always a great case study of like the fall of a studio. And the reason why BioWare doesn't get the benefit of the doubt with Dreadwolf is because 200 developers that were there when they were making Dragon Age Origins and Mass Effect. Say again?
I said they're letting people go. Like
yeah. They're letting people go. Yeah, and they've lost so many people have walked out and made their own studios, and they've had 2 bombs in a row. So they bombed the game that was in their wheelhouse that people expected them to do good with Andromeda, and then they bombed another game that wasn't in their wheelhouse and they had no business kind of making, considering when you know the truth of the development of it. And so it kind of makes you wonder, like, when it comes to Arcane, it's like, I think if we see a Prey 2 or a new IP that takes a lot of elements from Prey, that the Arcane faithful will be back, and it'll be like Redfall never existed. Red who? I don't know what that is. And people will be just move on and just look forward to what they expect from this studio. But if they come out with another shooter, looter, whatever you want to call it, live service, it's going to be, people going to be like, yo, what are you doing?
I don't think.
Don't you get the hint?
Yeah, I don't think the Arcane fans. I don't think y'all are gonna have to worry about the next game, because again, it all comes down to environment. You got to recognize what they were going through at the time, trying to make the transition, supporting themselves. And it's something that's completely different once you're under a publisher that can support you. You have a relationship with. And now you're seeing with Starfield, although gives and takes. There seems to be some confidence there, right? So I think that the next one y'all are going to be right back in line, and everybody will be happy with Arcane. And hopefully, it actually elevates them into, out of the stratosphere, kind of like a FromSoft situation, because I know a lot of their games tend to be niche, at least from my understanding. But they do have a following, so I want Arcane to really be able to step out there. I know people mention Prey and whatnot. So again, I haven't tried yet. That is really good, but. Hey, it's going to be interesting to see how they play out with support behind them. So,
wow. So,
well, yeah, and Forte,
you wanted to start with it.
Wow. I can't believe.
I'll just interject really quickly, because I think you guys probably talked about this last week, but Volition closing, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think if Bethesda was independent and they released Redfall, I think Arcane's closed.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. There's no way.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
I mean, even with Mikami leaving Tango, a lot of people were disappointed with that. I know Imran Khan put it out there that basically he was staying on at Bethesda because he was worried that if he left when Bethesda was independent, that Bethesda would close Tango because of it.
Oh.
So then when eventually Microsoft acquired them and they, released Hi-Fi Rush and it did really well and the studio Microsoft has big plans for that studio, he decided to leave and Microsoft's not going to close them. But, it could have gone differently. Arcane Austin could have been shut down. Tango could have been shut down if Mikami had left before. So, yeah. Because Redfall was bad enough where, because Arcane always has that history of their games being good, but nobody really buying them, right?
Right.
And there's a reason why, in the lead up to this generation, Bethesda was selling themselves to PlayStation. Oh, we'll give you Deathloop. Oh, we'll give you Ghostwire Tokyo, and Sony wanting Starfield. It's because they were having money problems, right? I mean, you don't do that unless you're not confident in your product and you need cash infusion. So, yeah.
Yeah, I had a lot to say. Oh my God, what did I say? Get this out the way quick. And listen, man, people are still hurt. Let's be for real. Redfall, I understand this, and this is the thing about Redfall. It was the game that a lot of people looked at as the beginning of the new Xbox, or just the beginning of games coming out. And, a lot of people were looking for, like, when May came around, May 4th, people were like, yo, we gonna get the chance to see what Xbox has been cooking. And it was a dud. And and to this day, it still irritates people because it seems like Xbox didn't learn from past experiences that happened to them not even a year ago. When you talk about the same way that Halo Infinite launched and, people had issues with that. And, and that was a vastly more superior game than Redfall was, but everybody knew what Halo was. It was like people were just upset at the way that it launched and just the care that they took with it. Redfall was like supposed to be a new beginning, a new IP. It was supposed to be one of the very first games that was being released by, Bethesda under the new Xbox bannership and stuff. And it didn't start out too well. And people aren't going to give that up. People are going to give it up. But we talked about this. Every game that comes out from Xbox is going to be under scrutiny. And, moving on to the next topic, talking about Forza, Starfield's here. A lot of people love it. A lot of people are like, depending on what side of the console war you're on, that's kind of where that conversation really goes. I think a lot of people are enjoying. I think it's going to be great. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more deeply in a second. But now focus moves over to Forza. That's the next game that comes out from Xbox. And this is supposed to be a layup for Xbox for the most part, because when's the last time a Forza failed? And I don't think that's going to happen with this, but, conversations on, no demos of the game. And I don't kind of ever remember there ever being real demos for Forza in the first place, but really not having any type of hyper fanfare around it. But it looks like Microsoft is starting to, ramp that up. They just announced that there's going to be hands-on demos on September 11th for that game. You're also going, it's also going to be the return of Forza Monthly, where they're going to be talking about different features and stuff that they're going to be adding in the game. But a lot of that stuff got sour for the fact that, game modes and things that were available in past Forza games are not going to be there at launch. Namely split screen, which I didn't even know Forza had split screen, because it's just something weird that I haven't really experienced in, playing games myself in so long, since, online has become such a big thing. But now the focus is moving over to, Forza. And, I'll go to you, Slomo. I mean, I know you're not a huge sim racer fan, or just racer fan in general, but what should the message be when it comes to, like, for Xbox and Turn 10 on how they should handle the rollout of the messaging and everything with this game going forward? And what do you expect from them?
I mean, you're absolutely right. Sim racers are not for me. I have never played Forza Motorsport, and I have zero intention on ever doing so. Forza Horizon is as far as I go. Arcade racer, I jump in for a few weeks, have a ball, and then I'm done into the next one. But I'll just speak in general from what what you can expect, what I expect from a game that when I'm a fan of a series and they're coming out with another part of that part to that series, and if I see that there are features that have always been there that are missing, what I'm expecting from that developer or that publisher at that point is just transparency. Like we transparency has to be the biggest thing that you get from them at that point. Okay, so all right, so this mode and that mode aren't going to be available at launch. When are they going to be available? I need to know like whether this is a small issue or a big issue, or is there more going to be worse things coming to pass? Because if you look at like what Redfall, I knew that 60 FPS wasn't coming out in a few weeks or even a few months. Because if that was the case, they just would have delayed it, whatever time period it would have took to get the 60 frames performance mode in there. The fact they didn't give us any timetable just had me assuming the worst,
Right.
which I mean it turned out to be. But when you don't, even if it's not going to be the worst, anyone who gets disappointed by finding out that certain features aren't going to be available at launch immediately goes to what's the worst case scenario. And you can alleviate any of those concerns if you just speak up. And of course, like, you may not know for certain if it's going to be 2 months but you need to be able to. It was supposed to be there at launch. You need to give your community some leeway by at least giving them a ballpark term, like term period where it may show up, just so that they know that you respect them, and you respect their time and the money that they are going to spend on your game. So I think that's definitely going to be necessary. But I think the game's probably going to be fine regardless of what other features are missing. I mean, Turn 10 has always knocked out Forza, so it's going to be fine.
Right. All right. Anybody else just chime in?
Yeah, love to chime in. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Kofi.
Well, really quick, I love Turn 10 from their old days. Okay, the original Forza Motorsport, Forza Motorsport 2, grabbed me,
Loved
and
them.
like, yes, like here was the thing that blew me that Gran Turismo was not doing, because obviously I'm a huge Gran Turismo fan. The downhill drifting that you could do in the original Forza Motorsport with the AE86, you could get the replays, you had the smoke going. I just remember thinking, like, why doesn't more games? And again, like Forza, I don't crown them as the king of sim racing, but there was a lot of mechanics that were going on in the early games that just made it so impressive. They were such a great competitor. I actually, I guess I'm a little bit to the opposite of slow-mo. I tried Forza Horizon 4. I bought Forza Horizon 5. It's fun, but it doesn't grab me like, a traditional closed circuit track. Earning my ELO, getting my ranking, and then having cars for each class weight or horsepower. And then of course all the I guess the decals, and seeing real cars with damage, and like they were doing damage a little bit better than Gran Turismo for a while. So when the last Forza Motorsport came out, and it was well reviewed, but there was a gap, right? How long has it been since the last? Was it 2017? Was the last Forza Motorsport?
2017, yeah.
So to me, to me from the outside, it looked like a managing win. I said, "Oh, Xbox leadership wants Forza to build a game from the ground up. It should have all of the things that we should expect from a multiplayer game." One weakness Forza Motorsport has is controlling crazy races in their online spaces, right? Like when you're in the talking about Turn 10, the first turn of every Forza Motorsport online race is a huge ramming event, and everybody goes off into the dust. And it's like, I wish there was some sort of like control for that. They could work on things like that. The only concern I had, for this game at first was, will they use the same model as Gran Turismo Sport did? And for people who don't know, they basically in Gran Turismo Sport, they made the original release very anemic in terms of cars and tracks and modes compared to old Gran Turismo games, with the promise of having this continuous update. Now, they did have a lot of continuous updates, but it never met the the content level of GT5 or something like that, which is one of my favorites. So when the Game Pass model started in 2017. So since then, I go, well, will Forza now have this type of model that is like Gran Turismo Sport? I don't know. But as we crept a little bit closer, I think in the last couple of years, I was like, look, it's turned 10. They've had all this time to work on this. There's no way they're going to mess it up. So I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit salty to see it like this. But to your question, Forte, you said what should the messaging be now that some of these things are already out? I guess I have to agree with a slow mo and say transparency is probably best. It feels a little bit unfortunate that any mode that has traditionally been in a Forza Motorsport game is somehow missing due to I don't know, resource constraints, time constraints. Because this is your time and this is your wheelhouse. It's not like you're changing IPs or anything. So I guess that's me just being like just a fan. They really made me a fan of the genre. And I'm really rooting for them. I don't want to be the hater. I'm not going to be the hater when this game comes out, even if they get some, tough reviews. I'm still, looking forward to that. But yeah, transparency is probably best.
Yeah, for me, Forza Motorsport is exciting, man, because it's going to be a test of, I'll say time in some ways, just because me personally, I've fallen off of motorsport around the time that Horizon really became more of that thing, right? But now I have found myself, because I was the guy in Motorsport 2, 3, 4, up to that first Horizon, and even the first Horizon, I'm the guy that plays in the hardest difficulty, simulation, everything outside of damage, because I had to start turning that off. That was restarting races because you got rammed in the side and now you don't drive right is annoying. But for me, seeing Forza Motorsport missing those features that people have been saying that, oh well, you might as well just push back the game because it's releasing incomplete. Co-op, from what I've heard from previous Motorsport games, because again, like other people, I wasn't even aware that it had a co-op mode or split screen mode. Excuse me. I've heard that it didn't run that great to begin with already, that it wasn't a favorable experience to use. I mean, I can see it as a, hey, well, you're over, I got a friend over, whatever the case. Hey, come check it out, come do a race. But at the same point, I can't think of the last time where playing split screen in a racing game outside of like a Need for Speed or something like that was really integral, like especially in the sim racing side of things, because you want to be able to see all the visual details of you going to a corner, the numbers on the sides. Like there's so many other things that you got to pay attention to when you're in split screen. They take away a lot of that. So I didn't necessarily think that was a big deal. And then them also not having drag or drift up front. Drag and drift not being there is literally not, to me at least, not that big of a thing, because they're going to exist regardless. Right. Weren't dedicated modes per se before, but they introduced them because there was a lot of people who were doing those things. Now, again, since I've been away from motorsport, I don't know if that scene has gotten so large that this is a big issue, but I just don't think that it is, unless they're coming out with some form of rank system or something else like that. Because again, if I need to drag, or if we need to go to an open lot and we need to race each other or whatever, that can still be done. And I don't need a green light to be able to do that. Is it nice? Cool. Does it make me question, oh, where are you at in the process? No, because Turn 10 has never given me a reason to question them. Again, like to what Kofi was saying, I was a Gran Turismo fan. I remember the original 3, 4, what is it, like the foldable case that had all the CDs in it back on the PlayStation.
Yeah, I remember
that was my thing back in the day, and I loved the class system that Forza never brought over. That was like the one thing for me, at least, that Forza was missing. And Forza Motorsport is seemingly doing that in this game. Hey, we're going to start penalizing people for not racing cleanly. We're going to give people an actual grade on your account, so you get more of an idea of who you're racing against, what you're doing. The biggest concern for me, because I don't know how it's going to work, and maybe I know Rand's under embargo, whatnot, but the biggest question for me right now is the whole car RPG aspect of it, because having you taking away me spending money on vehicles, and this was a point that I brought up to the Fun Speculation fam and Pong on the background, is what can end up happening, and this is only going to happen for a certain amount of people, but if I bring a buddy on, right, who maybe doesn't play Forza Motorsport like that, but he wants to try it out and he wants to hop online with me and do some races. I got all the cars. If he hasn't played in whichever certain car that we end up choosing to race in for X amount of time to level up that car, he's going to have a terrible experience unless they carry over that rental car system where you just borrow one from the host. But not everybody wants to do that. Maybe you want to have your own car, maybe you want to earn money through your races or whatever the case, so you can kind of do with it whatever how you want. It's just, I don't know how that's going to end up playing out. Now, for somebody like me, who I'll typically have maybe 2 to 3 cars per class, in every class, just so that I have something when I go online, or when I play, or when I race against other folks, that's probably not going to be an issue. But I could just see others coming in and be like, this is not an enjoyable experience because I got to go grind 6 hours to go level this car up. I'm never going to be able to play with the homies. Oh, I don't know if I have that much time to dedicate to this game like that to do that. So I don't know how that's going to end up playing itself out, but hopefully we get some more information on it. So that's my biggest thing.
Man, that's why I love gamers, man. Like you never know how a topic's gonna go when it comes to people, especially when it comes to racing games, because not everybody's into racing games. And yeah, this is a lot more information than I thought I was gonna get. Shout out to you guys. Rand, Mr. Rand, are you gonna play Forza first of all? Do you even care about Forza?
I mean, I literally played Forza Motorsport yesterday.
Ooh.
Yep. See?
And he did say he was under NDA.
Yeah.
All right, so you can't tell us what you think of it, but you could probably tell us the direction you think. Is there anything really to worry about here, or is people just worried to be worried?
I can't. I mean,
you can't speak on it.
I can't say anything. I mean, I literally played the game, and so I mean, I will say, like, the split screen thing, like Turn 10 did come out and say publicly, or like Phil said, that split screen wasn't even. They were never going to do split screen. It wasn't part of the roadmap of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think usage rate is so low in it, so they're like, we're going to focus on other things. But yeah, I can't really say much else about the game because. Yeah.
Okay. No, yeah. Definitely don't want you to. Okay, so I'll ask you this, Dan. When it comes to just the overall direction of talking about this game, and just like, that's the biggest thing with people with Xbox right now, is just finding out information, like, in a lot of people's eyes too late. Like the fact that they said a while ago that this game, they weren't focusing on split screen, but if you listen to the internet, this was something that was just found out 2 weeks ago.
Well, because they're people trying to tie it together to Baldur's Gate 3, right?
Right,
and
exactly.
trying to make it a thing like, oh, split screen was why Baldur's Gate 3 wasn't coming to Xbox, and oh, split screen's not in Forza, so has to be some larger issue at play, right?
Right.
But like, you don't really know any of the finer details. You're just like, well, split screen. Come on, that's a problem. I don't know. I think most people do not give a flying fuck about split screen.
Yep.
So the amount of people complaining about it is odd, because most people don't use it. So I mean, you asked me what I can't even really say that. Yeah, I don't know. I can't really say much about Forza Motorsport.
Listen,
don't get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, we don't want you to get in trouble. Listen, man. Listen, we don't want the police coming for you, bro. We love you.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't gotta wait that long. I mean, I believe the preview stuff is, like you said, on the 11th, so that's on Monday. So you get a bunch of people's opinions about what they played, and because it wasn't just like ILP. They actually got hands on, like at the thing.
At the event.
I got a at home build sort of thing. So
shout out to you.
But yeah, so it'd be you probably see a lot of people talk about Forza on Monday, and I'm sure a lot of those things that you mentioned will be addressed in some way or shape or form.
Nice. Well, we're gonna move on from this before we get ran in trouble. Not trying to do that. We got to keep both sides of the Xbox too, not just can't be having third wheels running that show because we need Rand there. But all right, moving on to the next topic. Let's talk about Cyberpunk, man. Everybody on this Cyberpunk.
What'd you call it?
I said, no. Listen. Okay, so first of all, I have the Tesla website up on my screen right now, and I was looking, and they've been talking about the Tesla truck. So I said Cybertruck because that's what the name truck is.
Why are you looking at Teslas?
Because my wife is like,
why are you doing that right now? Is what I'm.
No, it's on my screen. No, it's my screensaver right now because I want a Tesla.
Oh, okay. I thought you were like.
No, it's a screensaver on my screen, and I want a Tesla because my wife is giving me an okay to do it. And when I said Cyberpunk, I was thinking of the Cybertruck for some reason. So I don't know why. I don't want that truck though. It just popped in my head for a second.
That truck is hideous.
It's very hideous.
The ugliest vehicle I've ever seen.
But guess what? It's gonna be probably it's gonna be one of the most selling things that Tesla does when it comes out. It'll be ridiculous. Elon Musk is gonna be like, I told you so. Unfortunately.
Oh God.
I know. God. Oh God. Oh yeah, but let's talk about Cyberpunk. I know everybody on here has played it, beat it.
Check your message.
I already seen it.
Cool. Okay, cool.
Already seen it.
So guilty admission, I have not spent any time with the Cyberpunk.
Me either. Good job. I'm waiting for all the DLC to come out to do it.
That was my original reaction when it first came out, and there wasn't an official PS5 version. I said, okay, I'll just wait. And then since then, gaming has just been crazy. So I know that this Phantom Liberty's coming. So maybe this is my chance.
Yeah.
But I was just anyway. I'll let you.
This would be the time, right? Because they're essentially rebuilding the entire game. It's going to be completely different. Even for me, like playing the game. And everything that I got out of it, I was one of the ones, along with Pong, that were like on the hill of. We didn't have a lot of the issues. Again, me being on PC, Pong had the magical Series X, I guess. He had literally had no issues, and I had very minimal. But I enjoyed Cyberpunk for what it was, and Cyberpunk's one of my top 10 games I've ever made, because of that story and because of the gameplay, and to see them. It's amazing to me to see CD Projekt Red. Not rest on their laurels and say, oh, well, good enough is good enough, to hear the people come out one, you release the game and it's not complete, it has mad issues, it needs to be optimized, a lot of things need to be worked on, you pulled a lot out of the game, and then to get the reception that you did, still sell dumb amount of copies. Again, don't get it twisted, the game is successful with all the returns and everything, and then you still have people, as the game progressed. It is very rare where you have these games, and Starfield is going to be one of them, where over time they get better, right? And especially since it was on PC, the modding community got right on that. A lot of the things that are coming into Phantom Liberty are things that are mods already currently. So it's like they obviously have been paying attention. They obviously wanted to have this coherent story, and that was one of the main questions that I had with Phantom Liberty. Was like, hey, you have these multiple endings to this game. How does this fit into your game now? Like, what are you doing? And that was something that always blew my mind, because like, unless once you get to the end of the game, it tells you can't go back after this point. And someone like myself, I don't have a save there. That's not how I play games most of the time. Starfield is a game that I'm starting to do that with, a little bit differently, I should say. But as exciting as that is, it's also coming out in a very strange time. There's a lot of different games to play. Armored Core 6, I'm on my third playthrough running through that. I'm on Starfield right now. That's going to be a game I got almost 70 hours into that currently, and that's going to probably be another game that I'm going to be spending some time with, because it's not a rush for me, and the ebbs and flows of the game so far. have been top notch. But anyway, to get back on key is Cyberpunk was a great game, is a great game, and I'm excited to see what CD Projekt Red brings to the table with this expansion. Them rebuilding the game. How many more people are going to jump in? Idris, one of my favorite dudes, is in the game. I want to see what that's like. So I'm excited for it. But when I'm going to play it, I don't know. We'll have to end up finding out.
That's interesting. So, Rand, really interested to hear that you haven't even touched the game.
Yeah,
was it going to take for you to do it, and why haven't you?
Phantom Liberty.
It was just a matter of time. I was just kind of like, I think I had the game right away, but then it was like the performance stuff was an issue, so I was like, I'll just wait.
Right.
And then now it's getting all these big updates and everything. I want to play it. The problem is, a lot of people told me that Starfield is very similar in a way to Cyberpunk in certain areas. And like, I just literally spent 100 hours in this big, huge RPG. I'm not sure I want to spend another 100 hours so close to that. You know, like, I don't know if I want to spend all that time in Cyberpunk, where like I might feel like I might get burnt out. So I think I'm gonna play Cyberpunk, but I'm probably gonna play it more towards the beginning of next year when there isn't so much coming out. And I'm not also on, because the problem with Cyberpunk is it can demand a lot of your time, but October's filled with games I want to play.
Right.
You know, October's gonna be okay. Forza Motorsport, which I'm sure I'll probably play some. Assassin's Creed Mirage, Alan Wake 2, Spider-Man 2. So there's a whole bunch of games coming October, and Cyberpunk comes out at the end of September. And I haven't played the game, and obviously I would do all the content. So it'd be one of those things where I'd be like on a clock.
It's a lot. And it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's like if you're just coming off a Starfield rant, I would definitely not suggest jumping into side. There is so much in that game now. If you're just going to play the story and whatnot, but get the full breadth of the game, I would definitely suggest to wait. Then if that's
that was my thing. It was just like, well, there's all these other games coming out. I don't want to be rushed to get through Cyberpunk. You know, I'm sure there's going to be time early next year where there won't be as many games releasing, and I can be like, all right, now I can. It's been enough time since Starfield. I can sort of get into the next big game. So that's kind of my plan with Cyberpunk.
Okay, sounds good. What about you, Flomo? I know you done went ham in this game and played it in 4 different ways. So tell me what you're thinking, bro.
Okay, 3. So I have like 150 hours in this game, all on PC. My first playthrough was a bit of a disaster because I played it at launch, and I had a lot of problems on PC. I was barely able to finish the game. The final mission just kept bugging out on me. I was like about to just give up into it. Like, I figured out how to avoid the bug in the game that kept like preventing my progress from going forward. But when they did the big fix last year, right around the time that Edge Runners came out, I still wasn't like really like hyped about going back into it at that time. I was like, they fixed it good. That's good for the people who ain't played it yet. I'm done. I played it. I beat it. I moved on. But then I watched the Edge Runners, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, that weapon is in the game. And that's in the game. Oh, and that's Sandevistan. That's in the game too. The next thing I know, here I am reinstalling the game, creating a build that is literally all of the cybernetics and weapons and everything, the monowire, all that stuff from the anime, and then it's just like a whole new lease on life.
I heard that anime is great.
It's one of the best animes I've ever watched. It's very good. It's very, very good. Definitely check it out. And what I love about it, all the music in it is the music that's in the game. Some of the the
music in the game is
the music game is great.
So good.
The Ripper doc that's in the anime, you can go see him in the game. All the weapons that they use in the anime are weapons that are in the game, which is the reason why I reinstalled the game, because I wanted to take all the weapons, the shotgun, the monowire, the Sandivistan, and find the legendary versions of all of them and just go ham in the game. And that's 150. Like, well, it took me probably about 30 hours to beat the game the first time, but like 120 hours later, here I am still jumping in there, and I understand how, like, if you finish Starfield, you may not want to jump into something like this right away, but like this is it's a lot more focused of a game when it comes to like the story elements, and yeah, you can get deep into, like, I remember at one point, because I loved like my main weapon in combat was using a mono wire, which is like this electric burning wire that, like, it's like almost like a what do you call it, like a garrote, where you could just like choke people with it. But then it's like I'm literally, like, because it's a burning wire coming out of my wrist, I'm like ripping people in half and stuff. And I just started hunting all the cyber stuff, the cyber what do you call them, the cyber psychos. I hunted all of them to extinction. Like, I brought them all down, and they're like, like one of the harder enemies to kill in the game. And it's just, this game it's I will always come back for it. I'm ready for this expansion. I'm ready for the changes they're gonna make. I'm ready for the new weapons. I want to see what I can add to my my current Edge Runner build. But in addition to that, I also started a third playthrough that's all basically Netrunner. So some people will always go like, oh, well, Cyberpunk is not really like an RPG. Yeah, it is. If you really look at, like, the way they set things up, a Netrunner is like a mage. It's like a magic user. Like, you don't even have to move. You can just use your cybernetics to go in, hack the network, say in a building, connect everyone that you see through cameras, and then hit them all with like an attack all at once and burn out all of their brain functions. Like, you have that kind of like AoE type of abilities with a Netrunner, and it's so deep. But I think a lot of people are like myself was when I first started playing the game, where you got distracted by the bugs, by the problems, by the performance issues, trying to troubleshoot the performance issues, having bugs that were you may have not saved your game for like 30-40 minutes, and then a bug wiped out all your progress and you got pissed off and uninstalled it. Like, all that kind of stuff really distracted people from how good of an actual core game it is. And I think that it is a kind of unfortunate where it's coming out where it is, because I think if this was, say, June or July,
or whatever,
a lot of people would be like, yo, let me go finally give Cyberpunk a shot. Not that 20 million people already played it, because some of them might come back and just, do the expansion, but the people who shied away from it because it was all the all that negativity around it, or the 2 million people who got a refund might decide to jump back in now that it's fixed and actually give it a shot. I do think it's worth a playthrough, at least one playthrough for everybody. So, like, Rand, Forte, Kofi, definitely do that. Like, it's an awesome game. It's a very good story, and I think it's
shout out to
a
Jackie, man.
Yeah, man. Look,
I'm mad we didn't get DLC for him. I need that. I need that. Anyway, my fault.
Yeah. No, it's all good, man. I'm glad that they stuck with it, and they stuck with fixing it, because and I think they needed to. CD Projekt Red, their reputation, when they went from being a darling studio to being like, people would say their name and spit on the ground. Like they were just they were became gutter trash out of nowhere. And that thing, before they launched another game, they needed to redeem themselves with this game. And I feel like anyone who plays this game will see the level of work and quality that it is now, and respect that. Shout out to Blaze 4K with the $5 super chat. Says Starfield has me by the balls, by the short and curlies.
That's impossible. That's impossible. Not Blaze.
Yeah, Blaze. 4K, deep into Starfield, or the Starfield's deep into him. Pause.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Whoa. Okay.
Whoa.
It's a 7 out of 10 joke. That's
You
a
got-
7 out of 10 joke right there.
You got kids, Slow-Mo. You got kids. Can't be commenting on another man's balls.
Hey, it happened. That's a segue to get into the topic, though. You know, if you want to jump in there.
Yeah. Well, Kofi, did you have anything you wanted to bring?
I think I'll sit back on this one just because I like.
No, I think it needs about
3.
Cyberpunk.
Yeah, specifically about Cyberpunk. Like I want to try the game at some point. I think more like Rand next year. So I have my whole year scheduled out. You know, I've got JRPG coming out in November. 3 JRPGs coming out on the same day at the end of this month. So that's it. And next maybe January. You know, let's hope Final Fantasy VII Remake is not coming out till March. Give me some chance to try it then. But we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I bought it day one, sat on it, had it installed, looked at it, was like, yeah, I'm not playing you. This game's trash right now. And then I heard all the hype around the DLC, not the DLC, around Edge Runners, and I was like, okay. And I wanted to jump in then, but I was like, nope, still ain't fixed all the way. So then when I heard out the DLC when it was coming out and all these latest updates and everything, I was like, yeah, I'll wait. It's just bad timing right now. Like, I'm like Rand. It's like, I can't play Starfield and then jump into something that massive right after it. Like, you kind of need a palate cleanser, and more than likely it's going to probably be Spider-Man for me. And then after that, we're looking at maybe Assassin's Creed just to get back into, you know, since it's going back to the, you know, the original formula. So yeah, Cyberpunk probably won't get hit until early next year. And we don't even know what the whole slate of what early next year is going to look like for games either. You know, a lot of stuff is going to get announced over the course of the next couple of months or next month or so. And next thing you know, February, March might be to the point where, like, where am I going to have time to ever touch this game? So, and you know, we still got Final Fantasy Rebirth coming too, by the way.
Facts.
So it'll only be our chance. They'll finally give us a release date on that. Then we're like, yeah, this game is never going to get played. But we've all been patient, very patient to be at it. Let's talk about some Starfield, man. Starfield. The game that everybody loves and they love to hate, and they want to talk about how planets are static things in the sky and how, you know, gravitational pools work on them and everything like that. It's great. Mm-hmm. I love how everybody became a scientist and an astronomic overnight. It's great. I love it. But we're here to talk about the gaming side of it. And I'm gonna go to you first, Slow-Mo. Well, you know, yeah, because I want to, because Rand's gonna probably have a big part of this because he did a review on it. You put 23 hours in it since and you didn't
Tuesday night,
and you ain't buy it day one. You crazy? Like, do you got? You have?
I didn't know it was that much until like I checked right before we went live, and I was like, 23. Is that right?
You know what? I'm going to interject really quickly, right? Because this man Slow-Mo.
Yes, please tell him.
This man Slow-Mo was one of the 50 people that DM'd me while I was reviewing Starfield, and it was asking me all these questions about it.
I just look. I didn't want him. Hold on.
You gotta tell me.
Hold on.
Spend $100 on this game for early access. Trying to get me
all I wanted to know. I was like, I was feeling that FOMO, and I was like, should I just spend this $30 and play it early? But I was just like, I don't know. I've never really dug Bethesda RPG, so I'm like on the fence.
So you were really on the fence because the way you made it seem like, nah, man. When we were playing Remnant, you was like, nah, man. I'm just gonna wait. I kept saying Slow-Mo. Why don't you just?
Can we talk about Remnant?
Well, I just told him I was like, hey,
okay, you know what? We can add a Remnant topic right at the end and talk about it since everybody wants to talk about it.
I was like, listen, just wait for the reviews. And he was like, okay. But I found it funny because I've never experienced like I get a lot of games early or whatever. I've never experienced a situation where like people were dying to know about this game and what I thought about it. And here's Slow Mo, my Bridge 4 brother. He's like, Rand, tell me, should I spend $100 on this? I'm just like, oh my god, no. I'm like, just wait. So I take it you didn't spend $100 for early
No, I
access.
didn't. I waited.
He spent
And then-
$70 or $60.
No, playing it through Game Pass.
What?
We'll
You
see.
actually in the Xbox launcher? Can't
Yeah.
believe it.
Yeah.
So you're not one of the million people 6 million people that actually played the game. Well, 1 million people on Steam.
No, I am among the 6 million because the 6 million people
6
who
million
played
people
the game
played the game
up until today.
Yeah.
It was a 1 million concurrent people announced yesterday. And there was about 250,000 people that were playing it through Steam early access. So it wasn't
Concurrent,
any of
but
them.
not like total.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been playing it through PC Game Pass. I got 23 hours in. It is the
Dramatic
one
pause.
Dramatic
I'm trying to figure out how the best way to say it. It's the one Bethesda RPG that I actually enjoy. And I
Okay.
say that because
Wow.
I can't stand any Bethesda RPG. I can't stand Skyrim, Morrowind, Oblivion. I hate
Okay, I
all
actually
of them. And Fallout 3, I was digging Fallout 3 until I got out the vault. Then I was like, nah, this ain't for me. So it's like, if you kind of go back to Bethesda's, like when Skyrim was blowing up, everyone was playing Skyrim and I was playing Dragon Age Origins. So if you can see like the differences between those kind of RPGs, you can kind of understand how I am the kind of RPGs that I typically love. Now, I was intrigued by this one because one of my biggest pet peeves with Bethesda RPGs is the combat, and I have always hated the way they've done their combat. And when I saw like where they were doing, like when they first showed the combat, I was like the gunplay, I was like, I don't know. Then as we started to see more, I was like, okay. It wasn't until the deep dive they did last June where I finally decided, I'll give it a shot. Because I think I've seen enough where I think I might be digging this. And other people have talked about the slow grind, the kind of the slowly getting into it. They're slowly just liking it and getting good. I was concerned about that because I'm not that dude that's going to stick around and play a game for 20 hours before it gets good. I have never finished The Witcher 3 because I put 10 hours in on The Witcher 3 and I was bored all 10 hours. And everyone tells me, Slow-Mo, just play 2 more hours. Trust me, you'll love it. And I'm like, no, I'm done. And so I almost assumed that would be the case when I booted up Starfield for the first time last Tuesday. But instead, I'm 23 hours in. And my mindset was I'm gonna play this RPG the way I enjoy playing RPGs. I'm not a big exploration dude, so everyone complaining about fast travel, I'm like, well, good. One of my favorite games of all time, Mass Effect 2, got fast travel all over the place. I ain't trying to explore. I don't like when Todd Howard back in the day said, "See that mountain? You can go to that mountain." I was like, "Why? Like, what's on the mountain? What's there for me? I don't want to go to that mountain if ain't like a sword there.
Ain't no sword there.
You better give me a reason to go to the mountain." So it's like I don't care that I can't. Like, it's going to take me 10 hours to fly to Pluto because I'm not doing it, and I wasn't going to do it anyway. Unless there is a legendary gun on Pluto that will blow people's heads off with one bullet, I'm not going. And so I'm playing this game the way I play any RPG. I'm doing the main quest and I'm doing the side quests that pop up and towards me that I find intriguing. I have now joined the UC Vanguard. I'm doing those missions.
Vanguard's fire.
I'm doing the main missions. The story is another negative I had about Bethesda in the past is I thought they weren't the best storytellers. This one's better than what I think they've done in the past, although it's still not It ain't old school
Where are you
BioWare.
in the main story? Tell me.
I am. I saved Barrett, and
Okay.
now, yeah, I saved Barrett. Went back to the lodge, and we had our big discussion about all the pieces, and then I think the next thing I need to do is go to Neon, but I haven't done that yet because I've been doing.
Okay, you haven't even begun, my friend.
Oh man, okay,
Yeah.
All
That's
the cool stuff in the main story is yet to happen.
nice. So yeah, I got a lot to look forward to, and it's the gunplay is good enough for me to enjoy deciding to go down the rabbit hole what's going on with Vanguard, or enough for me to I just did the side quest about Lair the Mantis.
That was a good
If
one.
you got
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
That's
and
a good one.
that's not I don't want to give up the where they got the influence of that from, because people will immediately kind of know what it's about, but like the whole point of it and the lore behind the Mantis is so intriguing to me. And it really, when you get to the end
It's
of it
dope.
and you get the rewards of what
Mhm.
like you have a better appreciation of the things that you got out of it. It's not just, hey, I got another weapon, I got another piece of armor. Ooh, I got this. No, you understand what it was about and where it came from and why it's that like revered, and why so many people were trying to get their hands on it and died doing so. So it's just I'm enjoying the game. I'm enjoying the game. And so what I intend on doing is really try. I said I was going to focus in on just the main story, and so far I really haven't in that 23 hours. But I'm gonna focus more on the main story, get into New Game Plus, and then do more of the crazy, all kinds of stuff. I actually, real quick, I did a side quest today where
Mhm.
I was trying to get to the Mantis layer. But you can't just you can't just fast travel there. You have to create a flight path there. And if you haven't explored those solar systems yet, you have to go to that solar system and then light speed out to the next one. And so I ended up at this place, and immediately in front of me is this ship that's just sitting there, and it's like when you try to communicate with it, it's like static and weird clicking sounds and stuff, and it's just like, what the heck is going on? And then there's like a dude on the planet that's just like, hey, can you come down here and help us for a moment, please? One momento. So I go down there, and they're like, hey, you know that ship up there? We think that's aliens. Can you go up there and communicate with them for us? Because we scared. So I said, all right, I go in there. It's not aliens, it's humans. But these are humans from
Mm. Yeah.
Earth.
Mm. You had the same thing I had. Damn, let's talk about it.
Yeah, and they
I got the same one. Yeah.
they these are humans with outdated technology that have been in
It is so
space for
messed
200 years. And they got no idea what's going on. They're just like, yeah, we try to go to this planet. We're trying to save humanity. And it's just like, nah, fam, humanity's good. It's like you guys been out in space too long. No, we got like we all over. You left Earth when you would thought you were the first humans to left Earth, but you the last humans to get anywhere. Sorry. And so
That's actually pretty insane.
it's crazy. And then there's like this whole thing where they feel like they have claims to the planet, because when they
Mhm.
like, hey, we charted out to take this planet, they get there and a whole nother corporation then turn the planet into like a resort planet, and they just like, hey, look, if
Mhm.
these people are really troublesome, could you just kill them? I'm not saying kill them, but just kill them so that we ain't got to deal with this. And it's like dealing with that whole like figuring it out. I found to be very, very entertaining. Although I recorded my whole exchange with that, because I kept saying, because I wanted to see how far I could go. Because I wanted, when they proposed that I killed the colonizer humans up
Mhm.
there in space, I was like, all right, I'm gonna kill y'all instead. I'm gonna kill all of y'all and then let them have the planet. But then I couldn't, and I was like, damn, I can't do that. man, that would have been great if I could just kill. Like I'm sitting here in front of the board, I'm fully geared up with all kinds of guns. They're just sitting here like, hey, go up there and just kill him. Could you do that? And I'm just like, no, I'm gonna kill you. Bow, shot him in the head, but then he just fell, and I'm just like, oh, he's not dead. Damn. And so I couldn't you get the freedom of choice, but it's not quite Baldur's Gate 3. Like Baldur's Gate 3 will let you do that. In Starfield, you can't and even then I said, all right, well, I can't kill them. I'm gonna go upstairs, I'm gonna go up there and I'm gonna kill them in my own way. Right. And I went in, I literally kicked in the airlock and started blowing people away. And then I couldn't kill them that way either. I was like, so if I kill them on the ship, the only way I can do it is by sabotaging their reactor. I'm like, oh man. So there are restrictions, but at the same time, it is like that freedom of choice. So I did spend like 2 hours figuring out the solution I was going to have there, but I enjoyed those 2 hours. So like I said, I'm long-winded as I am. I'm sorry. I am enjoying the game. I do think I do understand some of the reviewers having their issues with things not being explained. I made an entire outpost and I can't put nobody in it because I built the entire outpost not knowing that I need to put this one little I forgot what it's called, so that I could put a person there. And I'm just like, I ain't got no materials left. I literally done built the whole living space, a couch, a bed, like freaking dartboard on the side. They got everything in there. I built everything except for the one thing I needed to make it an official outpost. And I'm like, could it hurt to have a little tutorial slide? Just oh, we see you're building an outpost for the first time. Here's some things to know. And just say, if you want to have one of your companions live here, station here, build this. That's all I needed. But I spent 45 minutes and a ton of materials for nothing. So, but yeah, enjoying the game. It's not a perfect game, but I am enjoying it. I am having fun with it. Now I will shut up now because I talk too much. Anyone?
I'm glad you told me that.
Anyone?
Whoever was I mean, that's a follow-up right there. That's a follow-up right there. Rand, go ahead and tell us what you thought, bro.
It's difficult because I've talked about this game so much, right? So I'll try to say some things not in a way that I've said before. So very much like Slow-Mo, I wasn't someone who loved Bethesda games. I liked Oblivion and Skyrim, right? I didn't love them. I liked them. They're enjoyable, but it wasn't like I would go goo goo gaga over them or evangelize them on online. And even though I enjoyed Fallout 3, I'm not a fan of the post-apocalyptic setting. I just post-apocalyptic doesn't do much for me. So I didn't play Fallout 4 for, I think it came out the same day as Rise of the Tomb Raider, and I just picked that one and never went back to Fallout 4. So the reason I was looking forward to this one, despite not loving Bethesda games, is because I'm a sci-fi nerd. I love sci-fi stuff. Because I feel like you can do a lot more in sci-fi than you can in medieval fantasy or post-apocalyptic, right? You can have crazy aliens. You can tell weirder stories. You can build more ridiculous cities and stuff because it's just your imagination. Like, sure, like what they built was more like they want it to be realistic. So you can't go land on gas giants or walk on the surface of the sun. That type of stuff. But it's still kind of around that NASA punk era theme, right? So going into it, I was like, okay, I haven't played a Bethesda game since Skyrim, so it's been a long time. What would that be? 11, so 12 years for me. I get the code, and I'm all excited. I'm like, oh, Starfield early. I wasn't expecting it, right? Because I didn't get Redfall early, so I just was like, Bethesda doesn't know who I am. And then I get the code, and I'm like, oh my god, let's dive in. 2 weeks early. Well, I hope it's enough time. And almost you could make the argument it wasn't enough time, right? People are still discovering things about this game, and they let people play it 2 weeks early. It should have been 3 weeks early. And my initial reaction was one of bewilderment and disappointment. Because while I felt the gunplay was strong, and I felt the gunplay remains pretty tight throughout the most of the game with all the different weapons you do get and you can switch between. Like I like just jumping up in the air with the boost pack and like dropping grenade launchers, like shooting a grenade launcher at people and then landing and switching to a shotgun and blowing someone up and then, you know, switching to a machine gun or a semi-automatic. Like all the weapons feel good. They all feel distinct. They all feel different. And the feedback is really good on that. So I was like, okay, this is good. But it was kind of all of a sudden, like it was the other stuff that kind of was getting in the way for me. It was all the loading, which I didn't expect going into it. It was like, oh my God, load to get into the ship and then cutscene to get into the atmosphere and then a load to get to the next place you want to go and then a cutscene to land. And then I was like, okay, fair enough. Like go long distances. What else are you going to do? And then you get to New Atlantis. I'm like, oh man, look at the city. And the first place I go into is a door that loads into another thing. And I'm like, what? I was like, what? I don't know. I was just so taken aback by how much loading there was in the beginning that it was kind of like screwing with me. And I started getting all these quests coming in. Like just you'd be walking and somebody would come up to you and they have a quest would show up in your log, or you would see people talking and you'd sit there and you'd wait and then a quest would show up. So you get all these quests and all this stuff. And then they introduce you to like terminals, and I grab the terminal quests, and I go to the lodge to kind of continue the main story, you know, to actually join Constellation, and then they send you off. And by that time I'm like, I got all these quests, right? I have all these like side things, so I start doing. I'm like, I'm not doing the main story. I'm gonna do all this other stuff, right? Because that's usually where people say the meat and the potatoes of the Bethesda experience is in the side missions and the side quest, right? So I start doing some of them, and they were just kind of lame. Like someone wanted me to go into the well and do a check for brownouts. Someone just wanted me to like walk from here to here to talk to somebody and choose some dialogue options, and the mission was over. I was sitting there, it's like a few hours in, I was like, man, all this loading and these quests aren't any good. I was kind of like, man, this is did Todd Howard, like, did he lie again? You know? I'm like, and then I'm talking to people. I'm talking to people who got the game. I'm talking to Colt and Cognito and Maddie and a few other people I know, and everybody, and Jez, you know, because Jez is a huge Bethesda fan, and everybody's kind of feeling the same. Like, I'm not feeling this beginning. I don't know. And so I was like, okay, let me continue. And where it turned for me, and I think I mentioned this in my video, was I picked up one of those terminals jobs, and the terminal jobs are kind of like, it seems like they're more procedurally generated. Like, hey, go to this system and kill the Crimson Fleet here, or go to this planet and kill this person, or hey, help send these 2 farmers to this place, right? So I pick up this like mission to bring a laser to this planet, which I do, and as soon as I land, the mission completes. And for a minute there, I was like, this is lame, because like I literally just picked it up, I hit a load screen to go to this place, and then I hit a load screen to land, and the mission's complete. And now it wants me to leave to go do something else, right? Because the mission's complete. And I'm like, that means I gotta do another load screen. I'm like, this is lame. But I noticed I was in like a town, like a small town that was connected to the spaceport. So I get out. And I start walking around, and I get a couple side quests there, but they're all similar. Hey, go put up 3 of these posters. And I'm like, is this really all the game is? Like, where's all these epic quests that everybody talks about in the Bethesda games? Like, where's the, you know, like the Thieves Guild and stuff from Skyrim, which I really liked. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe let me go explore some of these points of interest that are scattered around this map on this planet. So I wasted like an hour and a half just going to these points of interest, and they were just nothing. It was just like rocks and then some animals. And I had played for 3 or 4 hours, and I got nothing accomplished. I didn't level up once. And I was just like, man, this is dumb. Yeah. I'm bored, right? Like, this is stupid. And what changed it was I went back to the town, and I'm like, all right, let me go to this bartender over here really quickly. I talked to this bartender and she's like, "Hey, can you do me a favor?" And I'm like, "Sure." She's like, "Can you get my beer back?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, am I really going to get somebody's beer? Like, is this what the game's devolved into?" And she's like, "It's up in the spaceship in orbit." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. Like, I haven't done something with the ship in orbit yet outside of like the, fighting." I was like, "Okay, well that's different." So get my ship, fly to where this is, and it's this gigantic, huge ship. Massive, right? And it says like it's derelict. And around it are two spacers, and they're flying around it. They see me. We get into the dogfighting, which I really like in this game. I like the space combat. I think it's a lot of fun. So I land in I dock in the derelict ship, and the like warning sign of like red lights are flashing, warning horns are going off, and there's spacers in there. So you're getting these fights, but then every like 45 seconds, the gravity turns off and on. So you'll be fighting these spacers on ground, and then all of a sudden you hear the warning thing, and now you're floating in 0G. And not only are you floating in 0G, but everybody you're fighting is floating in 0G, and all the like stuff on the ground are all floating.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're having these battles in 0G, which is different because if you're using a ballistic weapon, it pushes you back when you fire, and then all of a sudden changes and everybody falls to the floor because the gravity's on. And I was just so into this mission. I was like, this is what I want. This is what I'm looking for. Like, this is so cool because it's delving into the sci-fi nature of like gravity on, off, right? Something you can't get from anything else. I was like, I was telling everybody, I'm like, and in my time with people I've talked to, like, I think nobody else had done this mission in the time I was reviewing. Nobody else it was just a random mission that I almost didn't find because it was just this lady just had it in the bar, and if I didn't go up to her and say anything, I wouldn't have gotten it. And I was like, God, this was so cool. This is what I want. And then I went back to New Atlantis, and I was walking by Mass, and they're like, why don't you join the Vanguard? And I'm like, okay, I'll join the Vanguard. And let me tell you, so while I was at like a 7, as soon as that mission happened and I joined the Vanguard, well, that game bumped up all the way up to like an 8.5 because that Vanguard quest line was exactly what I was looking for in this game, right? Mm-hmm. And then at the same time,
it's so good. Yeah, the Vanguard quest line is awesome. Yeah,
the Vanguard quest line, and then I started doing the main story, right? And the main story went so far above and beyond what I was expecting. Like, like people were like, "Hey, Skyrim's main story sucks. Fallout sucks. It's everything else." So I'm thinking this story's gonna be dumb, bro. I've ended up loving that main story. Like I was like, surprise, shock. I was just like, what are they like? I couldn't believe some of the stuff that was going on and how crazy it could get. And I'm like, wow, like this is incredible. This Vanguard stuff is amazing. And then I started doing Ryujin, and Ryujin's like different.
Yep.
But I was like, wow, this is nuts. And then I do Freestar, and I'm like, oh my God, this is. And then like I found a derelict ship with like some sentient AI, like straight out of Space Odyssey 2001, right? Where there's some choices there and stuff. And like I started all of a sudden to get into all the great parts of this game where I was like, okay, well, like I love this game now because it finally it delved into the sci-fi stuff I was looking for.
Good.
And everything just came together, and I like eventually I was like, I like these other Bethesda games, but I love Starfield. Like I legit love it. And I'm not and Forte will tell you, I'm not someone who plays a game for long. I usually like beat a game and then I move on to the next game, beat a game and move on to the next game. I'm over 100 hours in Starfield, which is probably the longest I will play a game this year. And there's still things I want to do. Like I still hear about these missions in these other places that people come across or whatever. Like, oh, you go here and you find Paradiso and their party line cruiser and the mission attached to that. It's absolutely crazy, some of the stuff that happens. And it was just, I didn't even talk about the Crimson Fleet stuff. Some people think the Crimson Fleet stuff's the best quest line in the entire game. Really? And yeah, I don't know if I've had a game.
Some good stuff in there, yeah.
I don't know if I've had a game really flip on me like this, where in the beginning I was so just, I wouldn't say the word disgusted, but I was just so apathetic about it. Where then like all of a sudden like, no, this is my game of the year. And I'm like, I was just and then like New Game Plus, I jump into New Game Plus, and I'm like, what the fuck, like. I don't want to spoil that for anybody, but Starfield like exceeded all my expectations. I'm not saying it's a perfect game because it's not, right? The inventory is kind of a mess. The loading screens is ridiculous sometimes, and how it just puts more barriers in between you and the things you want to go do. Like it's different than Fallout and Skyrim. Like Fallout and Skyrim's one world, and you can kind of like, I'm gonna go here, and then you get to the place, you walk to where you go, and then you might fight some animals, and you might clear out a town and get to where you want, but it's all within that viewing distance. Whereas like this game's like, okay, I'm on this planet, but guess what? Now I gotta go over to this other planet, so now I gotta load, and guess what? Now I gotta go here, and you gotta load more, and it's just they put a lot of more barriers in between you and the things you want to do, whereas Skyrim and Fallout didn't because it's based on one world. But man, I mean, I ended up loving the game. So that's my experience with Starfield.
Nice. The real interest, like when I listened to Rand's review, the first thing that stuck with me is like the first thing he said in the first minute was it was mediocre, and I was like, oh, I have to watch the rest of this review
because it was for me,
like because the way you talked about it, I was like, okay. I mean, I know you personally, so I know when you're going to give it real and straight, but you came out the gate telling people like, yo, just to let you know, I was bored in the beginning, but I've never seen so many people's opinion flip, like not just a little, a lot. Like we're talking about like you two, when I talked to you, you said you were sitting at like a 7 around that time. And you said by the time you finished it, you were at a 9. And I'm like, that's a 2-point swing. Well, 20-point swing, depending on how you look at it. But it's a 2-point swing for the most part. And I'm like, it's consistent across the board. And just, I'm only, slow-mo further than me, and I had early access. I got 16 hours into the game, and I'm nowhere in the game. It's just, it's huge.
Bro, it's one of those things where it's like, here's how you know, is because I was playing it in the beginning, and I was looking for excuses to get off because it was so boring, right? I was just like, I felt like I was wasting my time, and that's when you know something's not good. Like I'd rather be doing something else. I'd rather be reading my book, or I'd rather be watching a TV show. I just got this game that everybody wants to play early, and I just want to just not play it, right?
Right.
And then it flips to the point where like I can't stop playing it. I can't stop thinking about what's going on. I can't stop theorizing about what's going to happen in the future. I can't stop talking to people who are experiencing the same thing and like being in a party chat with Colt while he experiences the stuff I've experienced so I can hear his reaction. Like that type of shit where I'm like, yo, this is like, that's how you know the jump is like from 7 to 9. It's because I went from like, I don't want to play this and I'd rather do something else to be like, this is the only thing I want to do.
Yeah. It was just real interesting. Like it just going through my playthrough. I took a lot of things because I told Slow-Mo this. I was like, I normally don't listen to a bunch of reviews. Like I watch a couple of people that, support and everything. And then I'll just like check their reviews out. Then I kind of have my own thoughts on how I want to progress through the game. But this game, I literally sat at work for like, a couple of hours just listening to people's reviews. And it kind of formed the way that I played the game in the beginning. So I kind of stayed on the main path. And I did get to the UC Vanguard stuff. And I didn't even join yet. But every time I hear you talk about it, I hear Slow-Mo talk about it, I said, as soon as I jump back in this game, I need to go join the UC. Because I looked at the guy and I was like, he was like, you want to join? And I was like, no, not really. Not yet. And I'm thinking like, maybe I should join after talking to everybody else, like especially Slow-Mo jumping in. My biggest thing is like, I look at this game, it's massive, but the shortcomings of it, like I can understand, like people talk about, the review scores and 88, it could be higher, it could be, this and that. And I look at like, I think the game fell right where it needs to be at, because I think there is some indicative things for this game that I feel like shouldn't be that. Like I look at like Rand, the loading, it takes you out of the game. I'm like, it's like every time you go somewhere, you're loading this. And the exploration side of it, I love that, it opens up, but you do a lot of it inside the menus. And I can't stand that. It's like everything you do you're in menu. And slow-mo, I didn't even realize this. Like the one thing when slow-mo was talking about it during his lunchtime with slow-mo, I was like, you remember you were talking about the weapons and stuff being able to, have a traditional toggle for switching your weapons, like a Y button or something.
Yeah, that threw me off.
It threw me for a loop. Like literally for the first 4 hours of the game, I'm like, there has to be a way to switch your weapons without having to go into the menu. And then I literally figured it out just like you did. Oh, you got to hit you got to hit the D-pads and you got to assign weapons to that. And it kind of gave me that Mass Effect feel because it's the same way. Time slows down when you're switching weapons in Mass Effect. There was no real traditional way of switching your weapons in that game. And I was like, oh, this is starting to really, really feel good to me now. But the little bit of time I did put in, it's crazy when you say you put 16 hours in this little, but everybody said, like, dude, you haven't even scratched the surface of what this game is. Nowhere near the surface. And I am having a blast playing it. It's just getting into the groove. And like once you start playing it, like I'll play, like one day I literally played from like 11 o'clock and I had to work the next morning. It was 4:30 in the morning. I'm like, dude, I keep telling myself, I'm gonna finish this mission. Then something happens. I was like, oh my God, I gotta do this next part. And then you keep on doing these little things. You start doing these little side quests.
The game is very good at keeping you
engaged.
Yeah, keeps you engaged.
I was playing today, and it'll be like, all right, I'm gonna finish this mission, and I'm gonna get back to taking care of something for work. And then as soon as you finish the mission, someone goes, hey,
something else.
Yeah,
since you're here. We got a problem over at this base over there. They're being attacked by those crazy spacers, the same spacers you saved us from. Them over there need help. Can you please help them? I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do that. Then I'm gonna get back to work. And then you do that, and then you're like, yeah. So now those spacers that you killed, their backup is coming. They all in ships. Can you get in your ship and go up there and kill them? I'm like, I ain't never gonna get back to work.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and I'm a stickler for certain things in games like believability and stuff. But it's like this game is so good, I throw it out the window. Like the fact that you're like this no name miner, like that just got its plasma cutter. They just give you a ship and then they're giving you missions like you're God and stuff. I'm like, this is stupid.
Now that's
this
stupid.
is stupid.
It's stupid.
It's
that's
stupid.
That's the part of the story where I was just like, are y'all for real right now?
My man just said, we're going to, he was like, I'll stay here. He said, I'll stay here and you take my ship. And I mean, I get it. They're trying to like go into the whole, you had the vision and stuff. And they say, you're the only ones that can, you got to help unlock this mystery. And I understand where it's going, but I'm like, this dude literally is like, okay, I'll stay here, take my ship. I'm like, okay, let's go. You know what? Because I had so much fun in the game, I don't care. But when you start thinking about the game after you play, it's like that made no sense.
That made no sense. Like
Sense.
There's a guy you meet and he's like, hey, I want you to go undercover behind the Crimson Fleet.
The Crimson Fleet, yeah.
And I'm just like, I ain't got that skill set. I'm like, what makes you think I can do that?
At least they gave you the option for it though.
And I was just, well, true, but I was just like, but I have not shown any of that. Like you're like, we've heard so much about you. Really? What have you heard about me?
Did you go to jail
you ain't
at all?
Here to do that. Say what?
Did you end up going to jail at all?
Oh, I haven't finished that part yet because I was like, I'm gonna come back to this after I take care of some other stuff, like the whole terraforming. What are they called? The
terraforms,
terramorphs.
Terramorph. I went back to go finish the Terramorph story quest out, and I'm gonna come back to that, which I haven't yet because I've been down a rabbit hole of what's this? So yeah.
So, now I was gonna say, so Steel or Kofi, give us your experience and where you sit at so far with the game.
So this is also a game I have not started yet at all. Baldur's Gate 3 has been live since, because I got the PC version, so it's been out for 30 days.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, man.
But just like Slow-Mo and Randolph Thor, I have always had a stigma against Fallout games or Oblivion. I mean, Elder Scrolls games. When I'll just really quick
Mhm.
because I want to give the baton to somebody else. But when Fallout 4 got announced, I said, "All right, I did not like 3, just was not for me. But let me not be a
Mhm.
hypocrite. I'm gonna buy it day one. I'm gonna support it. Let's go." I got really excited about the VAT system, assigning all the numbers, the type of person I was gonna be. 10 minutes of this game, I felt like I had weights on my feet and I had to walk around. I hated it. I just hated it so much. And since then, all the hype about Starfield just reminds me of the same thing. Oh, gonna get excited and gonna have this disappointment. So, but the stories you guys have just told really keeps me interested. So I think at some point I'll pick it up on PC. I just don't know when that will be.
Definitely.
I'm sure there will be some interesting patches added. You know, of course, on the PC version, I can run it at 60 FPS, so that's not an issue. But because this year's so busy, it's not going to happen in the next 5 to 6 months at least. But I really appreciate what you guys said because to me, this game was, I'll think about it later. But your reaction and the fact that you guys I could relate to your story, made that really interesting to me.
Okay, so for me, is a game that I probably traditionally wouldn't have jumped into just because I have also grown a stigma against single player games. And for me, my mythology on single player games, because I am more multiplayer focused typically, is that they're better later. Why would I play the game? Why would I buy the game day one when there's DLC that comes later, there's expansions that come patches, everything else? I'm always getting the better experience later. Um, I have never been a Bethesda guy. So I didn't get the hype behind Skyrim, but I was also again I was heavily invested in probably playing Gears at that point. Gears probably 3 or 4 at that point. Well, that might have been around 3. Yeah, that probably was like 3, 2, somewhere. Anyway,
Mhm.
needless to say, so Skyrim didn't do it. Skyrim didn't do it for me at the around that time. And the only one that I was able to get into, and again, it's because of that multiplayer side of it, was Elder Scrolls Online. So that game, I think, gave me the overall baseline of what Bethesda is what's capable of, right? These ever branching story paths, you running in all these different types of people, you kind of weaving your own story, but also seeing how you fit within this world. I mean, again, those moments where I had where we literally the game got to a point because you were able to become a werewolf, vampire, and stuff like that, where people had a rock set up and they would essentially jump people into becoming a werewolf at certain times of the day to the point to where people were like paying for it certain times of day and all that crazy stuff. So it was like, okay. And I've always been familiar with MMOs, play those a lot. So that's where it kind of stops with me. I did recently though go back to Skyrim and Fallout 4 because I wanted to try to, since I've jumped into this community, I have kind of branched out a little bit. It's part of the reason why I even played Mass Effect in the first place, because I wasn't even aware of Mass Effect until I jumped into community was almost 3 years ago. And if I didn't know about it, I completely looked over it because it wasn't Gears, it wasn't Halo, it wasn't Battlefield, it wasn't COD at the time. It wasn't those games. Um, Lo and behold, come to find out, I hear from you guys, Forte, especially that the multiplayer back then was popping, and I was like, damn, I missed out on that. But nonetheless, but Mass Effect was also another game that made me look at games a little bit differently, especially with Legendary Edition. You're going from game to game to game with your character, or if you chose to just stay separate. I've made my own character. And seeing how that progressed and seeing how the story progressed with you and seeing how especially that finale, like Mass Effect 2 is the greatest game of all time. It literally is in every way, shape, or form. So, and I think with that drew some type of bug into me to where when I jumped into Skyrim, because the only way I was going to play Skyrim was with mods, because I wanted the combat to be a certain way. When I played it before, I remember it just being stiff, didn't feel good. I'm also very spoiled by FromSoft games. I'm not going to allow that. They make me take that action RPG aspect. Devil May Cry is the same thing. These are the kind of games that I come up on. So I get to Skyrim and it's like it has these survival aspects. It's like as cool as the dragon is the first time. Outside of that, the first 10 hours of the game, I get the wonder, but it never pulls me in enough. It was the same thing with Fallout 4 when I jumped in there. It's just the gunplay wasn't tight, and I like to play games in third person if I have the option. So in none of Bethesda's games traditionally have been good at third person. They always looked wacky and off. Starfield seemingly has done something for me with Bethesda that is extremely unique in the way that I felt about Mass Effect when I played that game. This is literally Bethesda's Mass Effect in a lot of ways. The way that they treat the overall gameplay loop. Like I know that loading screens do and can take you out of the experience. But at the end of the day, at least for me, I got 70 hours in the game and I just got my first power maybe 3 hours before I hit that 70.
Spoilers.
That's no. That's no. I don't think that's a spoiler. They showed.
I'm joking. I mean, they showed it at the direct, but Slow-Mo, have you gotten a power yet?
I did not get a power yet. I feel I am horrified that still has gone. No, I don't. I remember seeing that at the direct at the end. You know, that's why everyone was like, Mass Effect over there, like you stole my whole flow. Like,
exactly.
But yeah, man, I already knew you were going to get some kind of abilities. You know, yeah.
No, you
I don't have them yet.
But even a better example is right after you get the first relic, right? I haven't really progressed the main story since that, and to have 70 hours in the game at that point, and also hearing other people say that the story just gets even more grandiose, and I'm so caught up in doing. I don't know how I ended up doing so many different factions or being pulled so many different directions, but like when people said that the game started slow, I didn't feel that. Like the initial intro start where it's pulling you through the mind and whatnot, I felt like that was just like a, hey, make sure your sensitivity is good. This is look at the like how good the caves look, and this is the presentation. And then you get pulled in, create your character, and then you have that first instance where you're kind of making a decision whether you're going to have that engagement before you actually get on the ship. Like Slow-Mo mentioned earlier with the dude coming down and Forte was saying it was kind of funny how that played out. It was like a Neo the One type of situation. Like all of a sudden I'm in the Matrix. But even that when they open the doors to that first conversation that you end up having with the pirates, and again, that was another motivational factor for me is I'm all about the fashion side of it. I want to look good on my journey. I'm playing third person. I'm playing the first choice third person, so it's closer up, kind of more over the shoulder. The other one's a little bit more pulled back. The pulled back version, you can tell that the character, there's something, at least for me, I'm sensitive to characters feeling like they're actually part of the world. And when the footwork for the character, it seems disconnected from like the land that they're on or whatever. It just throws me off when you see it. So I'm glad they gave you other options, but again, on PC, you're gonna have plenty of options anyway. But for me, it's crazy just to see. It's crazy to see how the game's pulled me so many different directions, especially from a game that I wasn't expecting to do anything for me, right? I invested into. I had Pong hype me up to get into the premium edition, get in early so we can get that early access or whatever. But I was never expecting for the game to pull me in on a level where I'm literally, like y'all were mentioning, I'm thinking about this game. I want to see what else I could do. I made my own ship and kind of started playing with that. The whole Mantis mission, that also showed me a whole nother level. And then figuring out the puzzle and everything and being like going back through your inventory. And also the one piece of advice that I would kind of give to people that feel very stressed out by the game earlier on, or maybe you feel like it's slow, or maybe you're being pulled in so many different directions, just pick something and focus on that, right? If you bump into a faction, just focus on doing the faction missions. Let that carry you through. And then when you get a break, you get your inventory full, because that does happen. I see a lot of people talking about that now, where that's just kind of, they're not really liking how that system is. Honestly, compared to Skyrim and Fallout 4, I think this system is fine. It takes a minute to get into, but once you start realizing the things that you actually need versus the stuff that's kind of trash or stuff that you could save for later or whatever the case, it becomes much clearer and much more like you can play with the systems, right? Like the oxygen level, that's really dope. The fact that you can become overweight and instead of just completely shutting you down, making you move dumb slow like they have in their previous games, you just lose the oxygen level. So then you have that balance. And if you go through the skill trees or whatnot, there's actually perks in what and so forth that you have to exhaust that bar so many times to level it up. So it's like there's so many systems that weave in and out of each other. And for me, I do think from what I've experienced from my 10 hours of Skyrim and 10 hours of Fallout 4, and I try to do that with games. I do it like a 10 for 10. This game is leagues beyond what they did previously. When they said that, hey, Skyrim is a piece of what we have in Starfield, they mean that. And just because it doesn't have everything, like I keep seeing people draw references to No Man's Sky. I've put almost 100 hours into No Man's Sky recently. I understand what people are saying, but everything that No Man's Sky was missing, I have in Starfield. And the things that I had, I don't miss from No Man's Sky. Being able to leave the planet and go into the planet is cool and all, but it's not dope when every time that you enter the atmosphere, it's loading in. Like nothing is there. It looks completely bland. You can tell after a certain amount of time too that it is procedurally generated. And yes, Bethesda has some of that too, but it's all the underlying elements. There's that story there. There's the different factions that lead off into their own story. It could be their own literal campaigns for different games if they wanted it to be. And you're getting it in one universe as they put together. I think they've done a really good job with this game. Is it perfect? No. The fact that the AI is so inconsistent for me, since I've had Sarah, she's either in a wall, bouncing up and down, like she can't get a hold of herself, or is in a corner. Like I'm scared to turn around to see what the NPC's doing. Now, it has gotten better. And the AI is good enough in combat, at least, especially if you give them good equipment, that it makes them worthwhile, especially since they're also kind of they're like a storage goat for you. You can store mad in there. You got mad inventory space that you can use for them. So it's another way that you can offload some stuff and really kind of enhance your experience. Unless you're trying to sneak around, because that's completely broken. Don't try to do that. Again, the seamlessness of the game. I get if some people felt like that's what they were selling. And again, it would have been grand if that game would have been this. But there's also games that almost have $1 billion budget, like Star Citizen, aren't complete.
It's never going to be complete.
To run. Doesn't have the level of story, will ever have the level of story that Bethesda has, that I've experienced in my 70 hours of playtime in Starfield. And I don't miss the little things that people say that this game needed to be generational per se. This game is going to be another one of those games that is just going to grow over time. The modders already have 24 pages on Nexus Mods for different things that you can add into the game. So it's just like, I don't know. I'm really up on it. I'm not going to give it a score because I haven't beat it, but right. I'm really high up on it, and I feel good. So
cool. I'm enjoying it. Yeah. So the last part of this topic, then we can get ready to get everybody up out of here. Is I just want everybody's quick 30,000 foot view of Todd Howard's thoughts on the game not being his thoughts on them saying the game isn't optimized for PC. And, that's where a lot of people are playing the game at. And I forget who actually came out and asked him about it, but said, why didn't you just blatantly came out and said, hey, why is this game not optimized? Why didn't you optimize for PC?
He also said, is it coming to PS5 as well?
Exactly. So so Rand, since you start, give me your 30-foot.
Dude, I mean, like, you're asking the wrong person about PC. Like, I'll defer to Slow-Mo. Slow-Mo, is the game optimized for PC? And you're a PC dude. Is the game optimized for PC?
It is optimized, but it is not
needs
well
more.
optimized.
Okay.
It is no. You
Did
the
you
people
guys?
who are like, I'm having a great time, all have a rig that is less than 1% of
Good
the
time.
entire PC pop PC population community. And I'm one of those people too. And I'm playing for the most part over 60 frames per second.
Same.
But I also recognize that my average frame rate in this game is lower than it is in most games. And I look at, so I have a great CPU. My CPU is one of the best CPUs you can get right now. And at times when I go to places like New Atlantis or there's this
During
one
the day,
planet.
New Atlantis, bro.
Yeah.
It chugs during the day.
There's this one planet where it's like just like a lot of vegetation all over the place. And that will like I'm noticing my CPU usage is up in like in the 40%. And I'm just like, since I built this PC, I've never seen my CPU utilization that high at all. So that tells me that, like, I haven't done the testing, so I'm not going to speak on it as if I've done the testing, but that tells me that someone with a much older CPU is definitely struggling in these areas. And if you look at like tech tubers like Hardware Unboxed and Gamer Nexus, that actually have test benches where they have all these different configurations, older, like different generations of CPUs, GPUs, different RAM configurations to do all the tests. It is not optimized good.
You know what's funny?
Optimized, but not to the degree that like Todd Howard can say, go buy a new.
You know, it's funny. It's funny
computer.
you mentioned that, Slow-Mo, because did you see that the guy that responded to Tom Warren when they were talking about this?
Yes, he has a outdated CPU.
He's like, I have a 4090 and it runs like, and he's like, well, what's your CPU? He's like 7800 or something, like a CPU I have on my 5-year-old PC or some shit. Like,
he had the 8700K, which is weaker than my old CPU and my old PC that I rebuilt and gave to my son. So yeah,
but I got a 4090 though.
Why.
It should be all good, right?
Should be good. It's
I got a 4090. I spent $1,500 on a graphics card, but I have a shit ass CPU.
Yeah, that's an imbalanced PC build. That's not a good PC build, But then, this is where we get into the territory where people use that guy as the scapegoat and be like, no, it's fine, because it's just these guys have bad PC builds, and they point to the one dude in the car, who clearly should not have spent the minimum $1,600 he spent on that 4090 and should instead took that money and have rebuilt him a whole PC with that money he could have. But
What they tell you, Slow-Mo, they say if you're gonna spend $2,000 on a PC, 30% of it should only go to your GPU, the rest should go to everything else.
Exactly. Like this that will take you, like, those PC parts, if you built like that, will last you far longer than just continuing like, oh well, I'm seeing performance issues, let me go get another GPU. Like, that's not how you test whether you're having a problem or not. Your GPU is likely not your problem. If you're running software that is giving you stats in game of what's going on with your game, and your GPU is at like 70%, 80%, your GPU is not the problem. Because your GPU isn't getting the instructions from your CPU fast enough. And I guarantee that kid with the super old CPU with a 4090, that 4090 is sleep.
Sleep.
That 4090, when he plays Starfield, that 4090 is snoring. Because it ain't doing anything.
It ain't getting no information.
It's not getting instructions from the CPU fast enough. And so, like, it's like these little things, people not, like, still running games off of mechanical hard drives. Like, these are like the people that you shouldn't be listening to.
You listen to these people.
But Todd can't use those people as a scapegoat. Why does your game not have an FOV slider on PC, Todd? How you got a game that got first-person shooter elements in it and no FOV slider? Are you out your mind? How
There's
is
a lot
it?
of things that are missing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty pitiful settings menu on PC.
Yeah, HDR broken, no DLSS at launch. The question should have been, why didn't, with such a demanding game, did you not have the best upscaler available to help your community play the game better at launch, Todd?
They cut a deal with AMD, slow
You
mo.
can't say that, but that would have been a great question to force him to have to lie about it, right?
Yeah, true.
Like, it were much better questions that could have been had then, instead of, hey, some PC gamers saying the game
Yeah,
is,
but what
why
type
didn't
of
you
question?
optimize
But
the
what
game?
type of questions do you think you're going to get from NBC though? You're not going to
True.
get in-depth questions about anything. It's going to be, "Hey, Todd, why isn't this game on
100%.
PlayStation?"
Right, a question they could have had the answer to on their own years ago.
Yeah, they're not
right?
going
They were
to
paying
ask like
attention.
in-depth stuff. It's all puff pieces. Well, it's supposed to be maybe all puff pieces.
All I know is Phil Spencer was sitting in that picture looking stoic as heck when that conversation was happening. I was like, Phil Spencer he ain't blink. He ain't said nothing.
He laughed. When that
He
question was made.
laughed.
when that
He's like,
question-
what kind of question? I mean, the fact that my man, like I was talking to Slow-Mo earlier, I was like, my whole thing is this was a dumb question that got a dumb response. That's exactly what it was. Because like he didn't even invoke a conversation with him. He just said, why is this game why you didn't optimize on PC? And I'm like, okay. And then Todd just said, well, we did optimize on PC and this and that. Well, maybe you might need to get a new PC. I'm like, oh man, that's the kind of response you get.
Games.
That's the kind of response you get
God,
when
it
you
can't
ask a
run on
dumb
my
question.
PC from 2014. What's wrong?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Listen, man, I know my PC runs good when it's maxing out the utilization of my graphics card, and my CPU is barely sweating. I'm like, yeah, okay.
So
this is
am I
working
the only
really
one
well.
am I the only one who played it on as a console peasant here?
No, I played it on console too.
Oh, okay.
I did it on both. I just refuse to play
No,
it 30 frames
I
per
know
second.
Slow-Mo ain't about that life unless
Nah,
it's
I
about
will-
unless it's Final Fantasy.
Now, I
and
will
then-
say this.
That's
I
bad
will
that
say,
Todd
and he
played
is
it.
about that life.
now I will say this. One thing I loved about your review is you were super honest. But when you said it was the most smoothest 30 frames per second you ever played, I was
Well,
like,
I
I don't care what you said about 30 frames per second. There is
I
no
hear-
such
I hear
thing.
you, but
There is
yeah.
no such thing. When
Negative.
I was
in
like,
comparison to Redfall, are you serious?
no,
There's a fucking big difference.
Redfall wasn't 30 frames per second. It was like 12 frames per second.
Dude, the second I loaded up Redfall and tried turning my character, I wanted to throw up.
Exactly.
Right? I started Starfield and
that's
I
frame
turned and I was
pacing.
like, it's not bad.
I used to
Here's
fall
the thing.
for that
Hold on,
though.
Forza, here's the
Go
thing.
ahead.
And I think like we sometimes get frame pacing or frame timing confused with frame
Yeah,
rate.
we
So
definitely
like
do.
you can have like a frame
For
rate of
example.
30, but like if your frame timing is like each time those frame hits is like hitting at a different like millisecond, then you will get that effect of like, and shout out the gaming addict, because gaming addict felt sick trying to play Redfall on console, and it's because the frame timing was so bad.
From
that, like-
Software is notorious for that.
No, you know a game that had
Yes,
the worst
they are.
frame
Yeah,
timing?
absolutely. Their frame timing's awful.
Yeah, the game that had the
Um,
worst frame timing was Killzone 2 on the PS2. I
Don't
was
talk
like,
bad about my
yo,
Killzone 2.
listen, you know of all people, that game had first of all, Killzone already had floaty gunplay. The game was already floaty as heck, and I loved it. But man, I played Killzone 2, and I felt like I was about to barf every time I would turn the camera because the frame pacing was horrible in that game.
Oh my god. Yeah, there were some issues with like I remember hitting people and they would kind of react late. I don't know if you remember, like you'd get a headshot, but you may not see the headshot.
You wouldn't
happen,
see the
like,
headshot happen.
It's kind of weird.
Go ahead, son. What you about to say?
No, I was just saying that like just like the frame pacing is what when Rand said it felt smooth to him. It likely was running at a consistent 30 frames per second. But that's not the part that's smooth. It's just that the frames were coming in and typically somewhere around like a 11 or 12 it's like 11 or 12 millisecond intervals, I think.
Yeah.
is where it's really key. That's where it feels the smoothness, and usually that's happening because both the CPU and the GPU are able to do their jobs with no hiccups. There are no it's something new that Intel has introduced to some of their statistics software where they can actually determine what's happening when the GPU is having a hard time taking the instructions from the CPU and then actually rendering it on screen. And like before, we hadn't had those statistics until very recently. But when all that stuff is in sync, that's when your frame timing is really good. And that's probably why they chose to not do a performance mode and just said, you know what, you're just going to get it at 30 frames per second, because the hardware likely, whether it's Xbox Series S or X, likely can't run this game on performance without having that smoothness, that ran experience be really chaotic with, and we've seen games that try to go above 30 to try to hit 60, and it's like 45 to 50 frames per second, but it's like yo-yoing all over the place. Like, that doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel good. So it's like I understand why they did, but still, this is why I play on PC, so I don't have to.
Except when it's a game you can't play on PC and you won't wait to play it on PC. Then you will play it on console.
Yes.
Why not wait to play Final Fantasy 16 on PC? You know it's coming to PC because of that FOMO slow-mo. You had to.
That rhymes too.
You gotta defeat FOMO.
Slow-mo. I might change my name to that.
Slow-mo would abandon PC gaming in a heartbeat if all the games were on console and didn't come to PC. He'd be like, well, I guess I'm done with PC gaming in 120 frames.
I would keep it. I'll keep my PC for I would keep it for the free stuff.
You're a PC guy, and you abandon PC knowing that Final Fantasy 16 is coming to PC at some point, so you can play it on PlayStation 5.
I can't wait.
I mean,
I couldn't wait. When Rebirth comes out, day one, day zero. If I can find someone that can give it to me early, a week earlier, I would. Like day -5, I'm in there.
So the games are more important than the hardware. Gotcha.
Yes, always.
Okay. Hey, ain't nothing wrong with
the performance.
Ain't nothing wrong. Ain't nothing wrong with that, man. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
How was the 60 frames in Final Fantasy 16, by the way?
During combat, it was locked during combat.
I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't that bad. Yeah,
it was a bit blurry.
In combat, it was a bit
blurry in the background.
You could turn
it a little blurry.
Hey man, Jedi Survivor had the same problems too. So
at least they fixed that though. It took them 4 months to do it.
5 months to do it. Yeah, but look, when Final Fantasy 16 comes out on PC early next year,
are you gonna play it again?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I'm gonna play through it again.
Did you play through all the side quests the first time?
Well, I got some issues with some of those side quests.
Oh, issues with some of the side quests.
Wait. Tell me you played some of the late game side quests, because those
yes,
are bangers.
I did.
Okay,
those are good.
Bangers at the end.
I just wish that all the first half of the game side quests weren't so damn prejudiced.
There was some rough moments.
Oh my god! Like early in the game, like you have a brand on your face, so people look at you, they know exactly that you're kind of like an indentured servant, slave kind of guy, and they just immediately they don't call you like, hi, what's your name? Oh, I'm Clive. No, they're like, hey, Branded.
Yeah.
Hey, you Branded, you piece of garbage, you filth, you dog. Go over there and go do this fetch quest for me. Why do I want to do that? Like that's what I'm not doing your fetch quest. I hope you die. Then you see that person later on and you've got the brand removed. And he's all like, hello, stranger. Hello, you handsome devil, you. Could you by chance help me? No, you're the guy that called me a dog. There's a particular side quest that made me so angry that I didn't get the chance to kill these people, but that something else did. And Kofi probably knows what I'm about to say. There's a side quest where you meet a guy. He's like, "Please, someone help me! You, a stranger,
Oh, I know
branded
exactly what you're
stranger.
talking about.
My son is being mauled by a wolf down the hill. Can you go get him?" I'm like, "All right, I got you, fam. You know, you stay here.
That
Stay
quest
safe.
was, that quest was funny.
You
It
thought it was
was.
funny?
I thought it was because
The end.
the way it played out was funny. To me, because I don't know. Go ahead, tell the story.
So you go there, and there's this boy, and then there's the wolf. The wolf attacks you. You kill it. Then the boy's mad at you, and he's like, "You idiot! Why did you do that?
Die.
You were supposed to die horribly." I'm like, this little sadistic little bastard wanted to watch you get mauled to death by a wolf for his own entertainment. Why? Because they don't see you as human because you're branded. Then he goes, I'm going to tell father on you. Like I care. He goes back to his father. You're still alive? All that acting he did before, all that gone, all that Oscar winning acting, and his son's in danger. So he's like, "Get out of here, you filthy branded. Don't worry, son, I'm gonna buy another wolf. We'll get another brand at the mall." And I'm just thinking, like, I'm literally swinging on this guy right then, because I'm just like, "No, you're not. 'Cause I'm about to decapitate you, but no, I can't kill you because the game won't let me." But then they get their comeuppance. They get another wolf. They can't train it. The wolf eats them alive. They deserved it. And I did get that satisfaction, but I still wanted to kill them myself. And there's so many stories like that. There's so many side quests like that, where like there's another side quest where there's a little girl that's forcing her branded to like
those quests were all in literally the same area.
Yeah.
The windmill place.
And it's just it's like these people are sick.
You remember
like
that
children
one quest?
treating humans like not even like a living being, like toys. It's just the side quest made me.
Where the mother gave birth to a branded, and they were talking
Yeah.
about it in the pub.
Mhm.
That was
Yep.
crazy. They were like, like that thing didn't exist. Like we're just gonna erase that.
Right, and her own other child was like, "So that wasn't my brother?" And he's like, "No."
Yeah,
She's like,
yeah.
"No, that wasn't. No, it wasn't human. Don't worry about that. That wasn't a brother." I was just like, "What is wrong?" And it's just like all those like side quests, kind of like it's the reason in the beginning I just started avoiding them until maybe around when you get to the desert area is when I started doing side quests again, and those were really good. And the side quests later on, like really good later on
like
in the
Martha.
game.
I don't want to say too much, but Martha, wow, right? Like that,
Yeah,
her
yeah.
last one. Oh, that was like, yo, go you. So
Nice.
The game really wanted to bang it over your head that the branded are nobody likes the branded, because like every mission in the beginning was like, but no, like the funny thing about that was it wasn't. It was like if I remember correctly, it was how the dog killed the father and the son or whatever, which was amusing, right? Like because it's trying.
He's like you roll
it was
away.
it was like
them.
amusing the way it happened. It was I was just kind of like, oh, okay. You probably shouldn't laugh during that because it's supposed to be a serious subject, but like they layered it with sort of like incredulous aspect to it, where it's like we're just gonna get another wolf, and then they get the other wolf, and then like you just hear him dying, and it's just like, oh yeah, like okay.
It is, yeah, it is kind of funny. But I guess like at the time I was just so mad. I was just like, "Go wolf,
go wolf."
But I will say, the first time you go help him, he's like, you weren't supposed to kill," because it wasn't like it was their dog, right? It was like their, and they were upset because you killed their. I was like, oh, because it got me because I wasn't expecting that. It was like, okay, like and then you go back and it was like like that quest did get me. I wasn't expecting that, but then the way it kind of concluded, I was like, that's kind of funny, but that's not supposed to be funny.
Yeah,
definitely isn't supposed to be funny. But listen, man, this has been a great show. I do want to just get this last thing out of the way. It asks everybody.
Nintendo, so
it's gonna be quick. It's gonna be quick because some people actually care about Nintendo like me.
Half this panel don't care.
Well, you and the homie ran, but I don't know because the question is, there's been a lot of rumors. The system has been rumored for like 7 years. It seems as soon as the system came out, people have been talking about a Switch 2. So at Gamescom, it looks like there has been some behind the scenes viewing of the Matrix Awakening demo running in Unreal 5 on a Switch 2, and they're being shown to developers there. That's also being
at target spec.
At target spec, and
That's
it's all
the key thing that people are not talking about. It's not like, so people think, oh, the Matrix demo that ran on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, and it looked almost like the Matrix movies. That demo was running on the new Nintendo platform, and it's like at target spec for that platform, whatever the spec is, which is supposed to have DLSS. Supposed to be able to do ray tracing too, but it's at that target spec. So it's not. I knew then when they said target specs that it didn't look like it did on Xbox and PlayStation, but it probably did look good. And which is enough if you think about the fact that like the resolution of Switch games doesn't rarely hits the 720p that we were expecting from the Nintendo Switch, and definitely doesn't hit 1080p almost ever. With DLSS, you could probably now start to see more games actually at a actual locked 60 FPS, as well as slightly higher resolutions, maybe only in docked mode and not in portable mode, but in handheld mode. But that does look, in Nvidia's, they like, just keep it a buck. They make better hardware than AMD.
They do.
So, you got better software, better upscaling that Nintendo's going to have at their disposal than Xbox and PlayStation has. So it's possible of a significant improvement from where we are with the Switch, which is garbage.
Well, there's also like rumors out there from Reset Era that there has been that Final Fantasy VII Remake has actually been ported over to the Switch 2, and it runs and looks just as good as it does on the PlayStation 5 on that system. Now there's two. Now I have two questions. Now there's two questions tied to that. If this is true, and Final Fantasy, they said it didn't take no time at all for them to port it. It said it was real easy to port. It's in engine. It's running. Everything's running perfectly fine. On the Switch 2. And they said it was so easy to port that it looks like it may be a launch title for that system. Nintendo already came out and said that they are not releasing new hardware before April 2024, which kind of makes sense to me because it probably isn't going to be something that's going to come out until next fall anyways. The fact that they actually put a timeline on it is real interesting in the first place. So the first thing is, what would a real power, what would that mean to the industry if Nintendo actually had a system that really dedicated itself to power? And then the second thing is, what does this mean that Final Fantasy VII Remake is actually going to be a launch title for that system and it is coming out? Does that mean that Xbox may have their window and they might actually find out when that game's going to come to their platform?
Square got a new CEO now, so anything's possible with this new guy. I mean, he's definitely not have the hard on against Xbox that the previous one did. And
true.
I would imagine
14 is here.
I would imagine if I'm Square, I want my games on Switch.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. 100%. Like you look at Persona, and now like Persona was always exclusive, but now Persona is literally everywhere. And I don't want to say the word blowing up, right? Because Persona was always a very successful niche RPG. But like with Persona 6 coming probably in a couple years, more than likely looking like it's going to be multi-platform, potentially on all. Like, how is Persona essentially reached the heights of Final Fantasy? Is like Persona's grown, but it seems like Final Fantasy's regressed. And I don't know if that's due to their exclusivity deals or like the PS5 not being as popular in Japan as Switch was and stuff like that. So if I'm the new,
to do with it.
I know Kofi probably knows more about this than I do, but I would imagine like if I'm like the new CEO of Square, like I want my Final Fantasy games on Switch, Xbox, PC, PlayStation day one. Like I want a large global audience. At least that's what you would think. I don't know.
Yeah, I 100% agree, especially after their announcement of them pivoting and focusing on their own IPs, but having them available in the West. And there's a lot of like weird I call them brain farts because there are some beloved IPs that they just won't release in the West. I'll speak to one. It's called Dragon Quest X. It originally was an MMO. It came out on the Wii, like way back, and then it got supported through the Wii U. It got supported on PlayStation in Japan. It got supported on Switch, and then never got ported over to the States. Even though Dragon Quest has always been well received, I imported it, finished it. I found it a pretty great game. And well, I'm sorry. To give more clarity, there's an offline version of the game that doesn't require Square Enix to pay for any servers. You get the entire story. There's added story, and and the game was released right around the 35th anniversary of the series. It was like this culmination of a perfect moment to say, "Hey, we know you haven't gotten this MMO for 10 years. Here's the offline version that is convenient for everybody," and then they don't do it. It's just like, why would you not do that? So with the the new CEO and potentially a new vision, I think there's some titles that have been stuck in Japan that can finally make their way onto multiple platforms. And just like Star Ocean, or just like Diofield Chronicle, or just like there's a couple other titles, Final Fantasy VII Reunion, that will come to Xbox. So yeah, I don't see a reason why it won't happen.
Right. Definitely.
Here's well, Kofi, I definitely got this question for you. When do you think the 7 remake trilogy of games will start coming on Xbox? I have a
Mm,
mind that I think, and this is my theory. I don't really know for certain because it's a little bit different for those games at Final Fantasy 16 compared to Final Fantasy 14, because 14 never really had any barriers to get on Xbox, but there is a deal that PlayStation had made, Sony had made, to keep those games exclusive to
yes.
PlayStation for a period of time. I wonder if Square could somehow bypass whatever extinction that Sony has made by just labeling it something different. For example, you know how they're using FF7R for really like the naming of all three. Like there's
Right.
remake, there's rebirth. The next one might be redemption or revolution. Who knows, right?
Reincarnation.
Reincarnation, yeah.
Reincarnation. Yeah.
Right. So what if they made a all-in-one trilogy when the third one comes out on PlayStation that gives the Xbox platform all of them all at once and just called it something that they hadn't even thought of that begins with a R, that
Mm,
isn't a part of the contract. So then this it's not necessarily like they're breaking the contract because it's not titled the same as the other ones. Like kind of the way they can't create it, integrate
yeah.
as a with Final Fantasy 7 remake with intermission combined is integrate, but it's really this. It's just an expansion called intermission, and then there is Final Fantasy 7 remake. Like where did integrate come from? They just made it up and made it a combined, sale. And so I wonder if they could just do the same thing with Xbox, but it just includes all the content of all three games.
And I'll also lean towards Rand on this. I feel like Phil Spencer is banging on Square Enix's door for that opportunity. Let's say all three games come out. He's going to be like, "Look, Square, take this bag. Have some sort of roll-up bundle, just like you proposed, and have all three games come out to Game Pass, or stagger it, right? Because they're all 40-hour games. You could say, hey, I could fill up a calendar year by saying, let's say it's 2026. You get Rebirth in February. You get you get Remake in February, Rebirth in July, and then something in September that is for the final R.
They did
And
that same thing for Persona.
Square
Yeah.
Enix kind of likes that, right? Because let's say the sales of that trilogy have kind of petered out by, I'm just throwing out random years, but some year where they're like, all right, sales are kind of down. Let's just take a bag, and we could say, hey, this is our profit margin bump for the legacy of this game. So uh, I think that's very reasonable. I kind of think of something like Octopath Traveler 1, where that game had sold very well, but by the time it made it into Game Pass, it probably wasn't selling like hotcakes anymore. And
Hmm.
so Square Enix gets a double dip opportunity in terms of like money making.
I think it all comes down to the contracts. What do the contracts allow? If Sony wants to extend the contract, if Square Enix is even interested in extending the contract for it, right? And like with the new CEO, I would imagine you would see the Final Fantasy games on, if it can run on the Switch, I think it'll be on the Switch. And same thing with the Xbox. I'm more interested, like the idea of a very powerful Switch is interesting to me because I think it could really change consumer habits. And what I mean by that is you look at the Switch now and you look at like Xbox One, PS4, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, right? And most people seem to be like, I have my Switch for my Nintendo games. And I have either an Xbox or PlayStation for the AAA games that don't come to Switch because it's not powerful enough to run them, right? It's like your Resident Evils or Devil May Cries or whatever. Like Alan Wake 2 is not going to be on the Switch this fall. And I sort of feel like, what if the scenario comes out with the Switch 2, where now it can run the same games on PS5 and Xbox, so you don't have to I have a Switch, but I'm going to get Alan Wake 2 on PS5. Now it's like, well, I have a Switch 2, and I still can get all my Nintendo games, but now I can play Alan Wake 2 on my Switch 2, and I don't need to buy it on PlayStation. And we know from the trial with Xbox and the FTC that what is it, something like 60% of people who own an Xbox and PlayStation also own a Switch, right?
Yeah.
Some really high number. I wonder how that affects purchasing habits of the people who own the Switch. If they're presented with let's say, I don't know, Devil May Cry 6 is on PS5, Xbox Series X, but also Switch 2, powerful enough to run it. Where are people buying that game?
Yeah.
Right? Because normally the people who own the Switch would get it on the PS5 or Xbox.
Right, and then they might get it on the Switch later.
But now they make it on a Switch because maybe you can dock it, but then again, you can take it on the go, which is something, well, I mean, I guess Sony's trying to do with the Portal and stuff, and Xbox can play anywhere.
That ain't real. But
I'm just saying, I'm kind of curious how that would affect purchasing habits of people who basically have a Switch for one thing, but now could use the Switch for everything, and how that could help third parties if now we're selling games to PC, Xbox, Nintendo, and PlayStation instead of just PC, Xbox, and PlayStation for the big games. I'm curious how the industry would react and how people would react to that.
I could tell you just my little corner of the universe. A lot of people that I know that buy games on the Switch, especially games that you're talking about, games like that normally wouldn't, or they come to the platform later, like Mortal Kombat and something like that. Actually, Mortal Kombat is launching on the Switch this year.
It is.
Mortal Kombat 1. Yeah. But I know a lot of people that are buying it just because of the portability of it. It's like, well, I'm going to buy it on my Xbox or my PlayStation, but I'm also going to buy it on the Switch just so I can, do that. So the bigger question is, if they do have a more powerful Switch, I know people are probably still going to buy it on there because, yes, the portability is a strong factor. If you can have a proper system that can play all the games and still take it on the go, I think that's where the majority of people will kind of lay. The question is, does the double dipping start disappearing when it comes to other platforms then? Because depending on how powerful the system is, and especially with DLSS on it, you don't have to be as powerful as a PS5 and PS4 because guess what? Those systems don't have that. That's not something that's built into the infrastructure of those systems because AMD doesn't support that. So that just gives Nintendo, it's always given Nintendo a leg up that they always been pretty much lock and barrel with NVIDIA, but they've been so far behind in technology for the longest that this is the first time that they actually can properly put out a system. But the biggest thing is we never thought that it's even possible that Nintendo would even care about putting out a more powerful system because they don't really, the games that they make don't really require as much power. But I think they're starting to see with, limitations and stuff to the games that they're making. Maybe there were some type of compromises. I guarantee with Tears of the Kingdom that there were things that they probably wanted to do that they couldn't do. And
so basically you're coming down to the ultimate question. What the hell is the price of this thing, right? Because you look at current handhelds. You look at the ROG Ally, which is $700, right?
$700.
I mean, there's no way Nintendo's putting out a $700 handheld. Right?
Yeah, you can't sell in high numbers.
Yeah, so I mean, even if they jump to 400, okay, how powerful is a handheld that you can make now and sell for. And Nintendo sells their systems for profit. They're not like Sony and Microsoft that will loss lead for a bit. Like they are selling that stuff for a profit day one. So how powerful of a handheld can you build for $399 that you're making money on right away? And as a lot of this like smoke and mirrors, like can it run the Matrix demo? But how well did it run it? Like
Right.
all those sort of things. Like, is it really going to be that powerful, or is this kind of like the early hopium that Nintendo's? Because this isn't the first time people have been speculating about a powerful Nintendo system. You know what I mean?
It's been years now at this point.
But this is why I wanted to always focus on I kept saying about the target spec aspect, because so many people were talking about the Matrix demo running on the next Nintendo Switch, and they were leaving out the part of target spec, because that really kind of narrows in that this wasn't the same version of the demo that we were able to enjoy off of Xbox Series console or PlayStation 5. This was not of that level, which also tells me that more than likely when the Switch 2 comes out or whatever it's called, the games performance wise as well as visually will not be on the same level as we see them on the PS5 and the Xbox Series console. So even though people who own or who will indulge in it, which is probably going to be a ton of people, right? We know that.
Oh yeah, definitely be a ton of people.
And they'll have that portability, and they need to make that choice. Those who tend to be the kind of the people that can't wait for Digital Foundry to drop another video, or that will tell us which platform was more powerful or had a more consistent frame rate for those multi-plat games. Those kind of people are still likely going to buy it on the platform that they enjoy to play their games the most. So it's really going to just come down to, where do you enjoy playing your games, period. Because if you enjoy playing your games and you're someone who doesn't really care about the visuals that much, but you care about the access and to be able to just pick it up and go anywhere. And yeah, Sony and Microsoft are providing options that allow people of their platforms to be able to do those things, but they're not doing them to the degree that the Nintendo Switch is. And honestly, I don't think any of the PC handhelds that are coming out, and I hate to say this as someone that it loves to go in on Nintendo, but I don't think they're really challenging Nintendo. Like, I mean, I remember after like a year or so, we finally got numbers that the Steam Deck sold a million units, and that's the highest selling PC handheld. Not only are the companies that make those products do not have the infrastructure or the distribution channels to even challenge Nintendo on that level, to even make enough units to do so. But what you get from a Nintendo platform, that simplicity as in the ease of use, you're not getting with a Steam Deck or an Aya Neo or ROG Ally. And for those who have the Ally and been dealing with all the hardware issues and the failures and having to take it back and get another one because this thing and that happened, like all the firmware updates, yeah, because it's a PC. So and the people who are big time console people but thought, hey, I could get this Steam Deck or one of these devices to kind of do some of my PC gaming and have access to. Yeah, I mean, you can do some of that, right? You could play like a Shogunners, a XCOM kind of game that is only out on PC on those kind of devices and really enjoy a platform you didn't have to build yourself. But when you start getting deep into the weeds of playing games like Starfield on it, and you're gonna need to stop doing optimization when you're trying to emulate Switch games, all that stuff is a lot more it's a lot more involved than just popping a game in and playing it. And there aren't too many people that are going to be down to do all the work necessary to make it work on a PC handheld. So none of these things are really challenging Nintendo, I think. And I think they know that too. I think they know that their simplicity and the ease of use that they have, whatever they do with this new platform, they're going to make sure that they maintain that and that the general public knows this is where you go to get that kind of experience.
But I also think the biggest thing is we kind of got to like Nintendo doesn't have to come out with a budget friendly Switch 2 initially, because I feel like everything's going to be subsidized by the regular Switch. They're not going to stop selling Switches. Switches are going to continue to sell. It's like at a certain point, they already confirmed, basically you're saying backwards compatibility is going to be a thing. I think the Switch probably still has like a good 2 to 3 years left in it before they are completely done with it. So if they did release a Switch 2 next year, I think the ramp up to where they get to a point where they're only making games for that system, like especially on the first party front, will probably be like 2 to 3 years. Whereas a Switch that's more powerful, that may have a higher price tag, will still play all of those real other games and probably still have some better graphical performance settings and stuff, but it'd be mostly geared around third party, because it would be like the olive branch to third party to say, hey, we actually have a platform for you that not only has Nintendo games on it, but is more powerful enough to be able to play the games that you never bring to our platform in the first place. I think that's how they can subsidize the beginning parts of it, because like Rand said, they don't want to lose money. Nintendo will never lose money on their hardware, but they could come out with a more budget version, not a budget version, but they could come out with a $400 or $500, $450 system and say, this is for the hardcore that want this type of experience. And we all know, especially when it comes to the mobile side of it, the mobile technology moves so fast that price could come down on that thing, like where they make so much money on it because of how dated the technology gets, but it's still a powerful system, that they're making more money and that thing can drop $100 in price within 2 to 3 years because it moves so fast. You're talking about mobile processing at that point. So there's a lot of different ways they can go with it. I find it real compelling to have a Nintendo that actually cares about power like they did back in the 80s, because that's when I felt like Nintendo was at their absolute best. And I just want to see them be able to move forward with gaming instead of being that system that say, oh, I think they like being the complementary system to everybody's household, because that's what they are. Everybody has a Switch or an Xbox or a Switch and a PlayStation or just a Switch. That's what the 129 million tell you right there. And they're going to continue to sell that system like crazy. I've been telling people until they hit that 155 million, you're not going to see them completely move over for this system, because people don't think they care, but Sony did kind of throw the middle finger up to them and said, well, we're not going to partner with you and we're going to make our own thing. And we all know what happened with that scenario with the PS1 and PS2. So I think Nintendo definitely wants to, take that reign back. But it's just real interesting to see that they actually are, this is possibly a thing, because a lot of people didn't think Nintendo would get there. But anybody else got anything else you want to say so we can get up out of here?
No,
I'm good.
We good. All right. Oh man, episode 147 in the books. Really appreciate everybody. Shout out to the 65 people that we hear up to this moment. First of all, hit the like button. We're at 37. Well, we're close to like exactly where we need to be at, but 37 likes. Make sure you share the stream with all your friends. Let them know that, we had a killer panel. And I want to get these guys up out of here because the show's supposed to be 2 hours long, but we knew it was probably going to run long.
It's never just 2 hours long. Who are you fooling, bro?
Well, listen, one can try, but first of all, I appreciate all of our amazing special guests that we had on the show. You guys are amazing. We really appreciate you guys doing this and hanging out with us. To my man Rand, please tell everybody where they can find you and what you got going on your channel and what games you've been playing, bro.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. It's always fun. I can't remember last time I was on here. It's been a while. It's been a while, I think. But yeah, I mean, you can find me youtube.com/RandallThor19, where we're less than 1,000 subs away from 100K.
Let's go.
Yeah, we got Xbox 2 on Fridays. Jez is back from being sick with COVID, so he had to miss this past week, so he'll be back on tomorrow. And yeah, I've been playing Starfield 90 hours, and I played some Forza Motorsport for a little bit, and looking forward to the rest of the releases the rest of the year because there's a lot of games coming, and I want to play them. I want to play most of them, not all of them, because that'd be, but I do want to play a lot of them.
Nice. Really appreciate you, bro. Thanks for coming through. Kofi, if I ever need to know about a RPG that I've never played before, you're like a customer that I had that walks in my store and pre-orders all those obscure RPG games for the Switch. Like, because every time, I swear to God, he comes in whenever the Nintendo Direct happens, he'll come into the store and he'll reserve like 5 games, and I'm like, what are these games you're reserving? And their games will never get into the store unless he reserves them, because they just don't sell. So every time I see him, I think of you, because I know you are just master RPG and it's just all types of things. So we really appreciate you, man, making your way back into the show, and let everybody know where they can find you and what you've been playing.
Yeah, so well, as usual, you can catch me on Twitter as creative_Kofi. I'm always talking about games that are about to come out in the US. There's a whole cavalcade that I won't get into right now, but usually you can catch me at this exact time on the Saltiest Gaming podcast. He hasn't been casting for a while, but he is back. In fact, his first show back was last Thursday, which I missed, and then this Thursday I was supposed to be there, and I said, "Hey man, Slow-Mo invited me here before I knew you were coming back." So they were a little bit salty, pun intended, but no, I'm glad to be here. And the game I've been playing, I gotta say it real quick. I have over 180 hours in Remnant 2, and this game is just blowing my mind. I love it so much. I love it so much that my platinum run is glitched because I can't get 2 trophies that I've already earned, and I still just love this game. And it's because of how many secrets and how many like levels of this onion that you start to unpeel, and you realize almost every time you played the game you've missed so many things. And I have a crazy build. I wish they would add a loadouts option, because I really could go with one type of build, and then I realized, oh, I could work on something that does this, and then just an obsession. It is just like you guys were talking about Starfield. It was like I didn't expect this game to be more than my playtime for Final Fantasy, which was like 70. And then it just kept going on. And then I made some friends, and Chris Righteous and we've been playing together. In fact, Chris Righteous, his brother and I have played together more than I have played with Chris Righteous. So
Nice.
it's an amazing game. So I just want to throw that out there.
Listen, the gameplay's on the screen. Me and Slow-Mo and Luca, we basically beat the game 3 times because we were, due to the fact that you can't share progression across your characters and stuff. So we were just rotating each other's saves. So we would just like, one day we would play in my game, the next day we would play in Slow-Mo. So we played like almost close to 40 hours, and we beat the game 3 times, and we beat it, I want to say the day before Starfield. We beat it on all 3 of our playthroughs.
Nice.
And that game, listen, that game is incredible, bro. We're gonna make time to go back and play the first one. Slow-Mo and Luca played it already. I've never played it.
I've never played the first one either.
Yeah, but this game it definitely got me to the point where I want to go back and play the original. And it's a really good game, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. So that's a good bring up right there.
DLC on the way.
Yes, sir. And that's when we're going to reinstall it again, because right now I had to turn it off for Starfield. But Steel, my man, the person that literally listens to the longest outro in human history on his show every week, from the man Ponso. Please tell everybody where they can find you, what you got going on, and what games you've been playing.
Well, you can find me, Steel Rain, everywhere. Google's probably the easiest place to type that in. That T is a 7 in there. And every Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern, and 3 p.m. UK time. I'm co-host for Live Split Screen, a non-console-centric platform. Other than that, what I've been playing, it's been a lot of Starfield recently, man, and Armored Core 6. I got to get back into there, get ready for PvP, get my third playthrough wrapped up. So I can get that full completion, get the rest of the parts and everything, so I can make sure that I can get my mixing and matching going on and really get my Gundam build complete in there. But yeah, other than that, appreciate you guys inviting me on. Really had some dope conversation today. And a wonderful night. So it's definitely gonna be a strong way to leave my night out. So shout out to y'all and much love to everybody.
Absolutely. Appreciate you for coming through too, as always. And homie, best friend, slow-mo backslap. Who I couldn't do the show without, wouldn't want to do the show without, and makes it always a joy being here every week with him. Please let everybody know where they can find you, what you got going on your channel, and shout out your channel members while you're here.
Absolutely. One, I do want to thank our guests. Thank you, Rand. Thank you, Steele, and thank you, Kofi, for coming through.
Appreciate you.
It was a damn good show. I just love like talking gaming with passionate gamers. That you don't need to ever question who they are as a gamer and what they enjoy and what their opinions are about. You already know just based upon the things that they say and the experiences that they have in the games that they're genuine. And you guys are always welcome anytime you want to come through and join us on DPS. And and thank you, Forte, for only having one technical glitch tonight.
Oh yeah, I was on it today, and it happened at the very beginning of the show. And it happened to me.
For myself, I do have a video coming out. It'll probably be out this weekend. So excuse me, look out for that. And as far as channel members go, let me get that real quick. And while I'm getting that, if you do want to become a channel member, it's real easy. You just hit the join button. It's only $1. We would really appreciate, you guys supporting us if you choose to do so. It's $1, minimum $1 on my channel as well as Forte's channel. But as far as the members goes, shout out to Erodimus, Leon Warfield, Vay Babe, Donnell Brown, Dragonheart Yobi, Enrique, Hargi Shini, Truth Serum, Ramon Terrell, aka Trevor Birdsong. Homie One Kenobi, Gaming Forte, Corey Hill, Stardust Acero, and that guy Smitty.
Yeah, appreciate you guys supporting us in that way, and hope you guys have an incredible week. You're already on my channel. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Definitely got a lot of stuff coming out over the course of the next couple of weeks. Been playing a lot of Battlefield, playing Starfield. Haven't played Destiny at all since the new seasons came out. So
That's a good thing.
I think my run has finally come to an end almost, and I'm starting to turn into Rand when it comes to that. He abandoned the game 8 years ago, so he knows the feeling. But
the next step in your
deleting
in your
characters
rehab is
that will never
deleting
happen.
character.
That will never happen.
You say that now.
That would never happen.
At one point you would say you would never stop playing the game, and here you are. You stopped playing the game, so we're making progress. So you're almost there.
Well, the next step is just uninstalling the game. That's the next step. But deleting characters will never happen because I can't throw thousands of hours away like that. That just can't happen. But for this channel, we got Basement Radio Arcade Podcast, Donnell Brown, Dragonheart Yobi, Stardust Acero, Ramon Terrell, Hargi Chini, Corey Hill, Slumbo Backslap, DJ Oris, and that guy Smitty. Thanks for supporting the channel in that way. And with that being said, guys, we really appreciate you. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy whatever game you're playing. And have a good week. See you guys later. Peace.